What up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new International Comic Crusaders. I know it's been a long time, right? I know you've missed us. Let me introduce my two homies, my great buddies. First from across the pond in the UK, the one and only Mr. Dave Elliott. What's popping, kiddo? Happy holidays.
Hi. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Awesome. Next up, man, you know, the future award-winning writer because of that hit book he has out on Amazon now, The Neon Graveyard. Our friend, our buddy, Mr. Chris Buse. What's popping, kiddo?
Thank you for the intro. Merry Christmas to everybody, and you gentlemen have the best set possible. I should put on my wool cap, my wool beanie, so I'm also well-headed.
Yeah, no worries, but we like the Lex Luthor look. You know, that's what you do.
I know you do. And you love the black background. You love the echo in my Luthor cave. That is how you like me.
Yeah, it's all about the noir. So, you know what, fellas?
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
Hey, Wepa! Big shout out to Josh tuning in. Thank you. Happy holidays to you.
Hello, Josh. Hello, Josh. Let me just switch to my comments here so I can see this. Hello, Josh. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, man. So what's awesome today, folks, before we start our program, I want to introduce somebody, right? This may be the last ICC of the year, but we're going to end it with a bang because next year, ICC is going to be 4 times better. Why? Because
the Fantastic Four.
That's right, because, folks, on the team now, we have an individual that is a comic book journalist for quite some time. He's been involved in publishing. He's a writer, man. He's a comic book historian. Homie knows his stuff. He just fits in so perfectly with these gentlemen. And Small World, he even knows Dave from back in the day a bit. You know what I mean? So these guys have worked together in the past, you know, to some degree. But now they're going to work together here, bringing you guys a whole bunch of top knowledge, comic book knowledge. The one and only Mr. Dr. Gregory Baisden. What's going on, kiddo? Welcome.
Hey, everybody.
See, can you live up to that now? Can you live up to that intro?
Here we are on Boxing Day, and I'm in a box. It's awesome.
Exactly.
Well, welcome, Dr. G. I'm so happy to have you. I can't wait till people get to
Thanks
know
for having
you
me
more. I shout out to Endless Mouse Studios too, because they were like, "Oh, our friend Dr. G is gonna be on." They've been blasting it all over the Instagram. So thank you to Endless Mouse Studios as well, the great homies, future award-winning filmmakers over there as well. So great stuff. So Dr. G, before we get started on our 2021 spiel over here, just a little bit about yourself to our ICC family.
Can I start off with a happy holiday greeting? I just thought you guys might like to see this.
Ooh, fantastic. That looks awesome.
Happy Merry Christmas, everybody.
Ooh, it's a near mint even. Not really, but it's getting there.
Well, it's not too bad, but it's not bad.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. What year is that? 41?
1943, actually.
Oh, is that your Christmas present?
For you guys.
Excellent. Give it to me.
You will find that I am a big fan of all things Captain Marvels.
Oh my God!
So just wanted to kick it off with that.
Oh, we should talk Otto Binder. I'm a big fan of his.
Oh, very nice.
Oh my God! Then you found home because these guys, Marvelites to the core. You know, when it comes to Captain Marvel, the original, if it is in that history, I can't wait to dig in with you on that. Wow, it's beautiful, gorgeous book though. When did you pick that up?
Oh boy, you know, it's kind of one of those funny things. I've had this for a long time in a comic box, and it just resurfaced about 2 years ago. I guess I've probably had this for 10 years.
Wow, 10 years.
Anybody want to send me a message and talk about how much it's valued, since this is good as gold, guys. But actually, I'm a big Captain Marvel fan, as I said, so this was a great one because of the holiday. So
I bet you wish you'd slabbed it 10 years ago.
I bought it slabbed 10 years ago.
Oh my God, have they been slabbing that? Oh my God, I'm getting old. I thought it was.
Otto Binder, as you were saying, Chris. Chris, I don't know if you've got, you kind of have a Commander Kurtz from Apocalypse Now thing going on with that deep background.
I know. That's all on purpose. I'm here to market my book. See, this is what it's all about. Horror, the horror. As Al said, the Neon Graveyard is available on Amazon for your reading pleasure. And this man, Dave, did help with the cover, and it looks amazing. It looks as purple as his background. You cannot go wrong with that cover.
That's why he wanted a piece of himself on the cover. And excuse that I left. I had to say goodbye to my family real quick. They're leaving on their drive.
Thought you were checking how much Greg's book is valued as.
Too much money. I don't want to give that away because then everybody's gonna start searching for Dr. G. You know, we have these people that are comic book hunters. You know.
Yeah, they're welcome to get in touch with me.
Oh yeah, I know, because you did state to me there are some gems you may be willing to part with, right?
Well, you know, it's the funny thing. I mean, obviously this isn't a slab, but I have a whole shelf on my bookshelf that's dedicated to Captain Marvel, starting with the Fawcett material and moving all the way through Miracle Man, or Marvel Man as they call him, in sections, because it's something of great historical interest to me. It's interesting, not only, Al, I think we talked about this, the character history is without peer. And Alan Moore, of course, got his hands on that with Marvel Man. And then the publishing history of it is quite astounding, if you ask me. And then, of course, it flows into one of my favorite subjects, which is publisher rights, creators' rights, who owns it, how did they lose it, what happened to it.
It's fascinating from a pure narrative standpoint, because it is, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the first comic book series that ran a storyline for over 2 years.
The Monster Society of Evil.
And we're talking here about Marvel. Oh yeah, they have this interconnected universe with storylines going 3, 4, 5 issues. They ran one fucking storyline for 2 years. That is amazing, and that is my man Otto Binder.
That's right. And crossed it over between several titles, of course.
Exactly. And they did this in the 1940s. They didn't do it in the 60s, 70s, or 80s.
So you're telling me that Marvel cannot take credit for the crossover, the Maxi event? No. It was already done prior.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. And it was a huge storyline, and it was really built on the fact that the kids would pick up the books every week or every month whenever they came out. And it was not like, oh, they might not get an issue, we can't do this. No, they just did it. They rolled with it.
And it involved every great villain of the original Marvel family. What I find fascinating is people don't remember that Captain Marvel, I'm talking about who people call Shazam now, he was the biggest selling superhero of all time.
Absolutely. That's why we had the lawsuit, because Harry Donenfeld said that can't be. They ripped it off. Get him killed. He's outselling Superman. That's not possible.
Ironically enough, and I'm sure this isn't what we're going to spend our time talking about, but ironically enough, where the real ripoff came, as Dave might speak to, is when Fawcett went out of business. L. Miller, who was publishing reprints in England, turned it into Marvel Man. And, I mean, talk about a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, if anyone if they had an inkling to how good it was selling in the UK, maybe they might have had a lawsuit, but it was just like England.
I think what was changing at the time when they finally lost the copyright was that the father had died, the Fawcett founder had died, and his sons were taking over, and they were really going into the paperback publishing and pulp paperback publishing. What many people do not know, Marvel was also in paperback publishing with Lion Press, and they really moved one of my favorite writers into the spotlight, Jim Thompson. But at the same time, we had Fawcett saying, "Okay, we lost this now. We pay $70,000 to DC Comics for whatever. We will not publish this book again. We have our paperback books. We will be fine." And they were fine for a while. It didn't matter to them at that point.
Yeah, Fawcett was a major paperback publisher in the United States. The other thing is that the reason L. Miller was republishing Captain Marvel in the UK is that they weren't really allowed during the war and all that to import comic books from the United States. So their object had to be domestically produced. So what they did is they put new covers on it.
Why couldn't they import from the US? We weren't the enemy.
It actually wasn't about the war either. It wasn't about supply. It was about domestic publishing laws in the UK.
Interesting. Wow.
Canada had a similar issue with Superman.
Shout out to
the
Paul.
Holy Trinity.
Become the four corners of geekdom.
Yes. The force of evil.
The force of evil.
It might also have been that because during the war, whatever they were shipping was probably deemed as what was necessary and what was important, and a lot of ships were being sunk. So it was probably like, hey, like let's just not put stuff like that because it's not worth it. That's crap.
Exactly.
So,
we are also talking about the post-war era. Canada had labor laws that did not allow comic books to be imported into Canada. They had to be domestically produced.
Also,
and then
interesting.
I think what's fascinating about Marvel Man, which is what I call one of the doppelgangers of Captain Marvel, is that he was very popular. Dave, can you speak to this in the UK after the war up until I think the late 50s, even maybe the early 60s?
Until the 60s. Marvel Man was popular. I mean, and in all honesty, I mean, I've seen some of the good stuff. The majority of it was utter dross. I mean, like, it was so inferior to Captain Marvel, you just wouldn't believe it. They had a couple of
although Alan Moore remembered it fondly from his childhood.
And we also had Don Lawrence working on the strip.
Oh yeah, but you know, you look back, you always look back and look on fondly at those things. You remember that one story here and that one story there that really, like, oh, I remember that was fantastic. And you go back and you go, kind of holds up, and then you see the other stuff that you don't remember, but you'd read, but you kind of it didn't hold on. You look at it and you go, ooh, ouch.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marvel Comics in the United States has had no success republishing Marvel Man.
No, I mean, I was probably one of the only jackasses buying that re-release, you know, trying to get into the new stuff finally, but it stopped. I mean, no one had an interest anymore here.
Nobody was interested in this other than the Moore issues. I bought the Moore issues, of course.
Yeah, but the thing was, they re-released it and they jacked the prices up. It was really expensive, and rather than just
what were they, $4.99 a pop, right?
They should have just put that book straight out. Then, like, trying to stretch it out, by serializing it again and putting page stuffing at the end.
Page stuffing, highlighting a little bit of what is it, colors as well, changes. You see, you know, they kind of went more digital on this new one.
They also released a trade of some of the original UK produced. But
they also did.
Well, hold on, because they needed to. They did that because they were laying claim to the copyright.
So
that's the most fascinating thing about the whole subject, I think.
Because the
trademark.
There's no one alive who actually has any sort of possible, even knowledge of what any sort of deal was. There's no paperwork in existence. There's no letters. There's no nothing. So there's nothing to actually say who actually owns Marvel Man.
The fascinating thing is L. Miller Company, as you know, went bankrupt right in the 60s. Yeah. So all of their claim to the character, not only were they not publishing it, but their claim to the trademark of the name Marvel Man, their interest in the character per se, sat for 20 years, which is why when Des Skin asked Alan Moore, what would you like to do for Warrior? Alan Moore said, I have this fond memory of Marvel Man. Let's see what we can do with that. So they went to who was it, Chris?
Mick Anglo.
The Mick Anglo, who was one of the artists.
Mick Anglo was the one that he had a studio, and his studio is basically packaged artwork. He ran a studio and he was producing artwork for different companies.
Who Don Lawrence worked for.
Yeah. And so Mick Anglo. I mean, here's the thing. Here's where you can't say Mick Anglo owned it, because Mick Anglo was commissioned. He didn't come up with the idea. He was commissioned to rip off Captain Marvel to make.
Were those the words? Come up with something just like this?
Yes, they were no longer publishing.
They kept the numbering. They even kept the numbering from Captain Marvel.
Wow. They went straight from Captain Marvel and Captain Marvel Jr. to Marvel Man, a young Marvel Man. The way I understood it is that Fawcett went out of business, as Dave said, or Chris said. They just shut it down. They weren't going to pay any more money to defend Captain Marvel. Exactly. Superheroes, as we all famously know, went going out of business. They stopped printing.
They lost the lawsuit. They lost the lawsuit against DC. They had to pay them $70,000 or whatever it was. And they said, we're not going to continue publishing this because we are in paperback. We're doing prose paperbacks. We are not in comics anymore. That was not interesting for them. But what I found so interesting, to the point I just wanted to make, is what I found so interesting in the whole Marvel getting this and Marvel doing the reprints and la-di-da-di-da, just from a pure fan point of view, was that Marvel actually put out 2 different editions of the series. They put out a censored version and an adult version, which I found interesting. It's an experiment they have never done since, I think. They had the original Moore issues with virtually no censorship whatsoever, and they said, okay, this is adult. We clearly marked this as adult. This is 18 plus. And we have a censored, watered down version, which is 16 plus or whatever they put it up.
Well, you're jumping several decades. You're jumping several decades ahead. Of course, there was the birth of Winter, Marvel Man's child, which was highly graphic in the Eclipse issue that we published, and then of course you have the Alan Moore stuff with the death of with Kid Marvel Man going crazy. But I think the reason L. Miller decided to ask Mick Anglo to do something with the character is when Fawcett went out of business. There was no more stories in the pipeline. It just dried up, and they had a hit. They had a major hit. Yeah, so they went to, as you say, Don Lawrence and Mick Anglo and said, "What can you do with this character?" And ironically, which is I think one of the things Alan Moore picked up on, he went from this dark-haired, big, brawny, kind of naive sort of American to this buzz-cut, blonde, blue-eyed Ubermensch.
Exactly. It's actually Übermensch, but here we go.
Ubermensch. Hey, oh man, look, I almost got that right. Hey, look at me. Man, thanks to Chris, I'm learning how to talk German in my sleep. Look at this.
Yes, guten Tag. That's how we start here. First lesson.
Guten Tag.
Okay. Shall we get to Greg's introduction and then talk about what movies and books and stuff we enjoyed this year?
But folks, you already got a taste. You see how knowledgeable the man is, bro? I mean, Greg has been doing his thing. He's going to be joining us, from this point on forward. So this has become from the Trinity to now the new Fantastic Four. I'll be Ben Grimm. I'm probably the ugliest one of the bunch. And I don't know which one wants to be Invisible Girl. That's your choice.
Well, you are the Invisible Girl. You are the Invisible Girl. You're taking a leave of absence when you're pregnant, huh? What about that?
See, this is why Greg's going to be such a good fit, because every time, whenever we do a podcast, we always go down the rabbit hole on something. And here, we could have probably talked about this for an hour or so.
Yes,
right. Absolutely.
Maybe this is something we
absolutely
at some point.
Absolutely. But just a little shout out.
Yeah, we touched it.
But just a little.
I was just having fun, folks.
He's teasing us.
But just a little shout out. If you put together your list of your favorite comic book writers and the writers who influenced comic books, put my man Otto Binder on that list. Because if you go back in history, Otto Binder was the highest paid writer in comic book history in the 1940s. Wow. The man wrote 10,000 words a day, 7 days a week. 10,000 words. And he came up with a lot of fantastic stuff. Go find those Captain Marvel issues. Go find his work on EC Comics, and your mind will be blown. He is the Ray Bradbury of comics. His language is so perfect. It's pristine.
So is that going to be your next novel?
He is already in my first book. He's the only comic book writer I quote in my first book. And that tells you something.
That's when you have your heroes, man, it is what it is. I mean, and that's what somebody look up to 10,000 words a day. He wrote rings around everybody, including Stan Lee and whoever you had at that time.
But
thank God Stan Lee wasn't there.
Writer.
Stanley ever wrote 10,000 words in any day ever?
No. Stan Lee worked during a blackout by candlelight. He always told that story. When there was the blackout in New York, was it 65, 66? When there was the blackout, he put up the candles and worked in the dark.
Yeah, but he did 2,500 words, and then
probably looking at those old tour scripts from Jack Kirby. Oh, what's going on here?
Oh shit, that's messed up. Let's not do that. This is the holidays now. Stanley, we miss him. I miss him.
Yes.
He was still a great publicist for comics. He was a good thing, you know, at least.
He was important. I mean,
Yeah.
He was
Stan was very important.
He was comics ringmaster.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You know, we fuck around
Yeah,
and talk
that's
about
a
it,
good
but we
way.
do appreciate him. We appreciate him.
Absolutely.
I feel
Absolutely.
like when you talk about Lee and Kirby, you have to ask yourself, Lennon, McCartney, do you have a favorite?
Oh, shit, right? You know? Nice. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, but I'm not so sure. But
Although,
here we
see,
go.
if you say Lennon McCartney, both Lennon and McCartney, like when they split up, they both produced some really good material.
Exactly. That's what I want to say.
When,
it's not a good
when
fit.
Kirby and Lee split up, Kirby produced some really good material.
Exactly.
And Stan became an executive editor and oversaw bringing in a whole bullpen of writers, starting with Roy Thomas.
Exactly. He's basically Stan was very much not a creative guy. He was also a creative guy, but he was also much more what Dave said, a ringmaster. He brought in these new guys.
Yeah, man. He knew how to build a web.
He was
Nice one, Al.
Yeah.
I put him up.
I was just reading some early issues of Captain America. Speaking of the web guys, just reading some very early issues of Captain America from Tales of Suspense, and right in the middle of Kirby being inked by Don Heck, I think John Romita jumped right into the middle of it, just for an issue and a half or something like that.
In the middle,
but he worked on the reboot in the 50s. He did the artwork for the reboot in the 50s.
Yeah, the great communist fighter.
Exactly. And it's also quite interesting if you think about it, that in this Tales of Suspense, when it starts with Stan Lee riffing on the old Jack Kirby tales from the 1940s. That's basically how he starts. And then Jack probably said, let's do some modern tales, not do the wartime stories anymore. And that's when we get Sharon Carter and all that interesting stuff.
Now I'm going to leap ahead a couple decades because one of my all-time favorite stories of Captain America was written by Steve Englehart. It was called Hero or Hoax. Do you guys remember that? He brought Bucky back to life, but it was actually the 1950s version of Captain America.
Yeah, he made that work. He integrated that into the Marvel Universe, which Stan had ignored.
A precursor for what Alan Moore did with Swamp Thing.
Damn, yes.
And Miracle Man.
And then it blew building on that, and that's how we get to the Winter Soldier.
And check it out. It's available as an epic collection right now on Amazon. It's going to I'm sorry. It comes out the 26th of July next year.
Nice.
They're going to collect the whole story, and it's already going for $45 for the paperback.
Whoa.
Oh,
this is what I was reading the other day.
Great. Absolutely great. These are some great issues.
Can you open
These are some great issues.
This is every issue of. This is every Captain America story. Let me find you a splash page, guys.
Dude,
this is every Tales of.
That's so beautiful.
This is every Tales of Suspense story of Captain America.
Where the hell did you get this, Greg?
These are the original issues. He had them bound.
Yeah, you know, this is old school because the guy took his collection. And he typed up the
that is super cool. That is super cool.
So this is where I didn't realize John Romita had worked on Captain America until I read through this. I was like, I guess they were just giving him a start, giving him an 8-page story to jump in with.
No, John Romita worked on Captain America in the 50s.
Exactly, that's what I said.
As you said.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yo, that's a gorgeous book. But folks, we got to talk about some good stuff. We're talking in the past, but we promise, we gave you a taste. This is what you're going to be getting. These guys are going to be dropping you some knowledge. I need you guys to come out with a pen and pad and all, get your robe on, your smoking gear, because you guys are going to have your minds blown. And also put out your wallets, because these guys are also going to put on some original creations. Original stories and books that you guys are going to want to add to your collection.
We are singing for tips, coffee and cigarettes and beer not for free,
Oh, yeah, bro, let's do it. So for today's episode, man, we want to kind of really dig in, have a nice little year in review. And, I would like to start with film, because obviously we've had an amazing film that came out recently, in my opinion. And I was just speaking to the guys prior, just a few minutes ago, that movie just hit $1 billion in the box office. And this is weekend 2, folks. What the hell? So Spider-Man No Way Home, man.
Well, you playing the trailer now? What are you doing?
No, I don't want to play the trailer. I don't want us to get in trouble. I want us to talk about the film, though. Have all of you guys seen it?
Yep.
Yes.
All of you guys.
And remember, I put this thing up on my Twitter because I wanted to discuss among my followers, and the responses were interesting. It was an interesting discussion. Got like 15 or 16 responses on it, and I fall somewhere in the middle. I always say, if I want to sum up my recent film experiences, and sorry if I jump a little bit ahead, but I just put it out on the table here. I saw an outstanding movie, I saw a great movie, I saw a better than okay movie, and I saw a shit movie. So the best movie I saw, blockbuster movie I saw this year was the new James Bond movie. I absolutely love that movie.
Okay, No Time to Die, right?
I absolutely love that movie. I really liked Dune. I thought Spider-Man was better than I expected. It was okay. I really liked it in parts. Some parts were good, some parts were not so good. And I absolutely hated the new Matrix.
You didn't like the meta kind of basis behind.
Well, I watched a review by Mark Hamill today. He summed up my feeling is perfectly. He said there's a great idea in there in the new Matrix movie, where they diss on WB and all that stuff. He says that makes for a great short movie, but there's not enough here for a big movie. And I totally agree with that. That's a good idea in there.
So
Chris, what did you think of the
trilogy? I'm sorry. Just my question was for Chris. You don't think there's another trilogy may come out of this?
No, I don't think so. It's already flopping. It's flopping hard. It's Spider-Man is destroying everything. Sing is going to be number 2. Sing 2 is going to be number 2, and forget about the Matrix. I mean, this is also.
What did you think, Chris, of the original Matrix? I thought the third Matrix just did not deal with the implications of the premise. And I thought basically killed the idea at that point. Exactly.
The first one is outstanding. It's one of the best modern science fiction movies. I mean, it's like the Blade Runner of the 90s. Blade Runner for the late 90s. I really liked that movie. Really loved it. And the second one was okay. They had some interesting elements in there. I was not bored. I was interested. But the third one, forget the third one. It was horrible.
In the immortal words of Drill Marcus, what is this shit?
Exactly, because the difference is also I saw the Matrix Revolutions, the third one. I saw was it 20 years ago? Yeah. And I probably had more patience for this. And I said, okay, this is interesting. And there was not so much competition. You said, oh, new Matrix movie, great. We need to watch that. This one, 20 years later, you expect a little bit more from storytelling perspective. This is like more. It had one good idea. I really liked the idea in the beginning. We said, "Oh yeah, we're doing another Matrix movie, new video game." That was kind of cool. That it did a little bit on WB. I said, "Okay, that's going into an interesting direction." And then it completely abandoned that and played the greatest hits of the Matrix, but only no less good.
These are the greatest hits. Yeah, I see Dave making faces and grunting here. I mean, what
Dave, you liked it? Did you like it?
Okay, so. I think we can all agree the first Matrix movie was groundbreaking. It was great.
Absolutely. There's no discussion.
And we also have to acknowledge that the Wachowskis were quite sometimes blatant in their homages and their source material to create the Matrix.
Yeah,
including Miracle Man, by the way.
Exactly, yes, in the third film.
Exactly, but also Grant Morrison and the Invisible. See, they took a lot, but that's okay. I mean, it's okay. I mean,
they took Appleseed, everything. So let's put that aside. I still think that if you took the second two films, edited them down to one movie, you might actually have a second good movie.
Maybe.
I knew we were going to go back to the Beatles. If they'd taken that White Album and just edited it down,
Charles Manson will disagree with you on that one.
That's what George Martin said. That's not my view of the White Album.
Now, the fourth movie was, I think it was almost like you can't, once it's said in the movie, you can't get past that thing of, it's like, well, we've got, they're sitting around talking about the sequel to the Matrix game. Yeah. And it's like Warner Brothers and like, hey, look, they're giving us a shot at doing it, but they can do it if they want. That kind of smacks of truth. If you
I kind of like that. I like that.
So if you take that aspect of it, and if you say they're like, okay, well, Lana decided, okay, well, look, I'm hearing rumblings from Warner Brothers that if I'm not going to do this, somebody else will.
I'm not blaming the creator. I'm not blaming the creators. I'm not blaming the creators. I mean, I would probably do the same. I mean, my book series is a trilogy. If Warner Brothers comes around and says, "Hey, Chris, we give you $1 million, write a fourth book," I say, "Hey, please mail the check to me immediately." We all do this for money. We all do this for money. It's no problem.
We're trying to buy houses and eat, folks.
But if I was
Ironically, it raises the issue of what happened with Watchmen, because Watchmen had a one-off. DC Warner had a one-off with Watchmen, but they said as long as we keep it in print, we have the rights to those characters. And Alan Moore walked away from it, but man, they have taken Watchmen and exploited. Of course they are. That's capitalism. That's what we're here to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
I mean, if you listen to the new purchase, but again, I mean, even with Dark Horse got purchased recently, right?
That's right.
The company that purchased them said it. It blatantly win their thing. We're basically buying this for the IP. We're buying this for the IP.
Absolutely, that's what you do.
Before.
And they said media exploitation. Those are the words used in the verbiage.
Yes,
media exploitation. Absolutely. So, okay, thank you for being upfront. You only want this because you don't care about it. You only want to abuse us fans.
No, but they're coming at it from. But they're coming at it from an investment point of view. I mean, this is. I can totally respect that.
Business. I get it. It's business.
Yeah,
I'm sure Disney has. I'm sure Disney has choice words on the notion of exploitation.
Do you, does no one here know that Dark Horse had already been sold before, and this was its sale again?
But when was it sold? When? Also in 2021?
Basically, it's been owned by the Chinese for for years. So
okay, but if you look into the history of comics, almost always you're going to find the printer ends up owning the company.
Yeah, but I kind of find the timing
Chinese
crazy.
Printer.
I find the timing crazy because Dark Horse is just getting back to Star Wars line. Now there's a video game company. Are they gonna try to say like, yo, well, we got Dark Horse, they got the Star Wars comics, we're doing the games? I mean, is that something that could possibly happen?
No, Disney would probably have the license to that.
Disney would hold on to that. The reason Dark Horse got that Star Wars license back is, as you all well know, Disney has had terrible luck publishing comics on their own. They always licensed their comic books when to Gold Key would be the specific one. But when Russ Cochran decided to revive that line with Another Rainbow and Gladstone, Disney saw, hey, maybe there's money to be had here, and they brought that license back and opened up Disney Comics. Could not make a success of it. Ran it for 3 years, I think. Couldn't. It just wasn't a big enough margin for them. Right. And that's why they've sat moribund. But Disney will hold on to all of those subsidiary rights. Absolutely, Chris.
The problem with these companies is, though, I mean, they want to bitch about the publishing side of comics, but when the fuck was the last time you saw a comic book commercial or a commercial telling you go visit your LCS? You know what I mean? I think you don't see that type of marketing or push behind anything in print. They want you to create the product. Oh, we're gonna buy it because we want to make a TV show out of it.
Well, I think at that point, Marvel Comics is an IP farm for them. It's nothing more. They have the rights. They're not interested in the comic books. They're interested in the IPs.
It's obvious. It's obvious. Okay. Look at the trash.
You're actually wrong.
I'm not trying to bash Marvel, but they're putting out a lot of trash right now.
Let Dave speak. Let Dave speak. Dave.
The reason you're wrong is that I think Marvel understands that comics won't be embraced by the mass market. They just won't. The period of time when they were embraced by the mass market were when they were much more accessible. They aren't accessible. I mean, I literally have read comics all my life, and Marvel and DC are now inaccessible to me. So I can't. Someone says, "Oh, you should read this, you should read that," and I said, "Well, sure, it might last, but will it last 6 issues? Oh, that before the creative team changes, go somewhere else. What else can I read within that?" It's actually easier for me to not bother.
See, what I say then, though, is that if we're not going to push the print and you want to move onto the digital mediums, we don't even get promotion on digital mediums.
They're already maximizing.
I mean, now that it's dead, though.
They're already maximizing what they can do with it.
That's exactly right. It's an economy of scale. There's more money to be made in movies and games. My son loved comic books, and he doesn't read comic books anymore. He goes and plays video games. He watches the movies. There's your advertisement, because there's an economy of scale. And that's why they look to other smaller publishers and say, what do you have that's exploitable in a bigger scale? Because comics, have a very limited market. We don't even
Marshall.
sell. We used to sell 1 million copies of Captain Marvel, Superman, Wonder Woman. We don't. When was the last time we sold 1 million copies? X-Men #1 in the 90s.
Yeah,
A million.
Wait. How many? How much did McFarlane do with Spawn?
No. See,
No,
you're
I think
looking at the wrong
800,000.
thing. You're making the wrong comparisons. When you talk about X-Men #1, Spawn #1, you're talking about, literally hundreds of people that bought a case, sometimes
Mhm.
several cases,
That's true.
and thought,
Absolutely
wow,
true.
this is going to be worth a lot of money, and then
Exactly.
realized
Exactly.
they end up giving them away. Or
What I'm talking about is the newer Spawn books. Those actually sold really well, and we got into some very high numbers on those. That kind of
but you're talking about
back
hundreds.
into the night.
Yeah, sure.
Well,
it might
compare
go
exactly, but
You're talking about an
audience
audience of a few 100,000. Some of who are
Exactly.
very speculative, as Dave mentioned, which is why
Yes.
the trading card dealers got in there. There's a huge speculative moment in the early 90s where people thought, "Oh, economy of scale, we can sell 1 million copies of these."
Yeah, it was
False market. False
It
market.
was like being on crack. If you ask those guys back then, I mean, this is you guys were there. I don't need to tell you. I mean, it was just crazy in the 90s. It was, however, not the most successful time. That was in the 1950s. 1952 was was the biggest year for comic books. And why was that? Because that was right before the comic code dropped and right before television dropped.
And how much did comic books cost?
Exactly. And kids were trading comics, they're reading comics, girls were reading comics, boys were reading comics. G.B. Olsen was out selling crazy numbers even in the 60s. There was an interest in comic books in the North American market. But if you look today, there's no interest in comic books. In Japan, manga is big. In France, comic books are big, but not in North America anymore because there's so much entertainment going on, and there's just a new generation that's not interested in comic books anymore.
Digital media be the main thing, right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not just that.
Exactly.
You see, the thing is, what America did is America walked away from the market. They literally, if they had followed the European or Japanese model and focused on that, but they didn't. They treated comic books like M&Ms or a Mars bar or something like that.
Yeah.
There was fuck the creators. The creators were as commonplace as a bag of sugar that you'd pour in the chocolate.
Which is exactly when Marvel was sold, they got the guy in who brought out the big M&Ms in the big bag. So they
you also
really
have to remember that television was coming in. Television was coming in at the end of the war.
Absolutely.
As Fawcett, as we talked at the top of the show with Fawcett, the superhero market had collapsed. Television was coming in. People were scrambling for what they could obtain in the market. Horror comics, Western comics. Kirby went and did romance comics. The thing is, they were trying to find a way to retain a market that had already been associated with kids and had for a long time been sustained by this superhero furor of the war. When that's gone, what do you have? And so I'd be interested to talk about whether there was some kind of pressure on the comic book industry to maybe corner it so that there wouldn't be as much competition with things like television. And some people would argue that that's what Seduction of the Innocent was actually all about. It was trying to corner a very vast publishing market into a kiddie corner so that it wouldn't have as much competition.
I mean, let's just say that the guys who said, I mean, there's some irony to be had because William Gaines originally proposed a committee of sort of a comic code committee in the 40s, but nobody wanted in on that. And then Seduction of the Innocent happened and the RUAC hearings, or the hearings on the on kid violence. And then all of a sudden the big publisher said, oh, this could be a good tool to get rid of EC Comics because they have got really, really big now. And they really pushed out EC Comics. That was their goal. Because EC Comics was the premier publisher at that point.
And here again is an irony of publishing history because, as you know, William Gaines, the successor of Max Gaines was a founder of one of the founders of DC Comics, All American Comics.
And here's how the irony continues. Bill Gates ended up on the board of W Communications.
Bill Gates.
Bill
Why?
Gaines,
Because of
Bill
Mad
Gaines.
Magazine. Because of
Oh,
Exactly.
Warner still proudly holds that Mad Magazine logo up as one of their assets.
Exactly, and this was part of the deal. And Al Feldstein became the highest paid editor in America at that time because he had a sweetheart deal with his boss Gaines.
And Mad Magazine is no longer mad, folks.
And if you guys, I mean, talking about our achievements here, if you guys want to read a deep dive into EC Comics, 12 parts, go to Comic Crusaders, go to my column, Comic Book Confidentials. I wrote a 12-part column series about EC Comics. Just check it out.
Dr. G, you're welcome to also, if you ever want to share your opinion, share it on Comic Crusaders too, because Chris created this whole Comic Book Confidential. Read these these columns. Amazing, and it's comic books 101, 102, 103. I mean, it's everything.
Well, I sent you a couple covers of the Comics Journal. One had to do with
we're going to cover that next week. I'm going to really
the new attempt against comics with American Family, but also Al Hewitson had a really nice interview in there. He was a kind of a protege of. He started a company called Skywald, and he was a protege of the EC Comics, and he reached out to Frederick Wortham in the 50s and 60s and said to him, are you happy with what you accomplished by basically, as I was saying, cornering comics into this child's market? And according to Al Hewitson, who's interviewed in that issue, Wortham was actually stunned at comics fandom and thought that he had really done a disservice to the industry because he recognized that this is an intelligent audience, an audience that was devoted to science fiction as much as horror comics, what have you, and really understood that he didn't really recognize some of what EC was trying to do with that O. Henry kind of social commentary. He was looking straight at psychoerotic elements of comics.
And there's an irony to be had because Wortham was a renowned psychiatrist. And in the 1930s, he had a young man coming in and he had these violent fantasies. And he said, well, we need to get this guy institutionalized. We need to make room for this guy. He's going to kill somebody. And this guy went on to kill somebody. He killed the top model for pulp comics, for pulp magazines. There was a lady who was the artist model for many of these artists, Ward and whoever they did the pulp magazines, White Science and so on, White Tales, and he killed her.
That argument keeps coming back about the influence of media on violent behavior in society. I mean, we've seen.
But it had nothing to do with the fact that she was modeling for these pulp magazines. It was completely independent of it. But it's kind of irony that young Dr. Wortham wanted this guy off the street, and he went on to kill somebody who modeled for these pulp magazines. I think that's quite ironic.
I would suggest maybe Wortham's psychiatric practice wasn't successful in that.
So, guys,
no, he was very successful. He was very successful, and he was very revered, and he was one of the first guys who was really massively working towards integration of white and black doctors.
I was talking about that particular case. If you have a client that goes off and subsequently murders somebody, I think maybe you have failed them.
No, he wanted this guy institutionalized. But the authorities said, he's poor, we send him off on the street, he cannot pay.
Oh, wow.
It was not his fault.
So let me say this here, because we have a viewer watching, Marshall Lewis, shout out, and he's like, so there has to be a new face in the comic community in general to revamp the market. There's phases in cinema, why not the comic community, since the comic community is what makes comics special in general. So what do you think about that?
There are phases in comic books.
Yeah. Comics community has always been there and always will.
I would be interested in what you have to say, Dave, about the current comics market. Is there something we can do to revitalize the audience for actual print or digitally released comic books?
Well, I think you're missing it because there's a ton of good graphic novel comic material out there. It's not published by Marvel, DC, Dark Horse.
Absolutely. I agree.
No, what I'm talking about is economy of scale, where we can expect to have a readership of 50,000 copies for a particular issue.
I mean, if you want to look back,
you can't sustain a creative industry run by capitalism. And I'm not a communist. I'm not anything like that. If you look, like Marvel destroyed the X-Men. Like you may still love the X-Men. You maybe still. What do you mean destroy it, Dave? Like remember, X-Men used to sell 450,000 copies, just
Easy.
an average issue, every month.
Yeah.
But you can also see
there was just one X-Men comic. Now you've got like 10 spin-offs.
X-Men, X-Force, New Mutants,
Wolverine dies,
Marauders,
Wolverine dies, Wolverine lives.
And you also see that we have a change in the power structure, because on one hand we have these huge media conglomerates, on the other hand we have independent creators who become their own publishers with Kickstarter and so on. And I put my book also up on Amazon because I want to be my own man. And there's a lot of value to be had to this. And you see all your creators going this route. They go to Kickstarter. We had Jimmy Poppiotti come on, and he's doing very fine with his books on Kickstarter.
He's just like, if you want to see how to run a Kickstarter campaign, just study.
Go to Jimmy.
Jimmy's the man. Without fail, bang, bang, bang. He puts together an awesome package.
Yeah.
Doesn't like, again, if you're doing a Kickstarter and you're launching it without having it finished, or at least 90% finished by the time you launch
finish your damn book.
Yeah.
Jimmy, as we all know, he was partly responsible for the revival Marvel had in the 2000s. Together with Joe.
Yo, Jimmy's the man, bro. Awesome. But you see what Marshall Lewis, he goes, I don't know how to change it yet, but he wants to make it look the same, but taste different. How do you feel about that type of? I mean, when it comes to comic books, I mean, how could you make it look the same but taste different to entice a new audience? You know, bring in that sazon, that flavoring.
Hence my question to Dave. I understand the notion that you can't write successful comics by committee, although maybe Kirby and Lee would make a comment about that. But can't an independent producer of something of great quality? Dave, I think this speaks to your career with Atomica. Can't an independent producer of something of quality find a vast audience, which is what I'm talking about, audience of scale?
I think that it's possible, and we've seen evidence where things have happened. Like probably, one of the first things that comes to mind is actually Bone. It was like it started off a small independent, black and white independent, got bigger and bigger. They started doing trades. Eventually, Scholastic picked it up. It's that was huge. But again, it's like anything else. Like the public, look at Harry Potter. Just let's go out of comics for a second. Look at Harry Potter. The way that they trickled out, there were 7 books. They released those 7 books. Everyone followed. Basically that was like a 10-year period of releasing those books out. We got them. Yes, sure, we had the films and everything else, the video games and everything. But if you look at the publishing effort, the books are still all in print. They're all still making everybody money. Comics hasn't been able to do that. Comics is still like, okay, their mentality is we have to produce this every single month. We have the direct sale market now. There's almost zero newsstand sales anymore. So why are we still treating these?
What's a newsstand? I haven't seen a newsstand in years, bro. You
have to go to a train. You have to go to a train station or an airport.
Absolutely.
But again, it's like you go in there and you're seeing, and if they do have comics, what's the again? Why are they there? Because where am I? What's the point? I'm picking up a comic to read it, but unless it's something I regularly buy, there's no point. There's no point in picking it up. There isn't. You're not going to get any satisfaction out of it. There's no story there. There's a little bit of this, and it's gonna. Oh no, next issue. It's not on the rack.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to bother looking for it. So
absolutely.
I mean,
but it's a very interesting issue because comics have comics did not start out as Jules Pfeiffer famously wrote, didn't start out as an artistic medium. Started out as a purely commercial racket to keep the presses rolling, to recycle some original stuff, and then to feed what was a burgeoning market. So again, the question is,
and we're talking about
with digital media, with films, what is the incentive for a vast audience to go and pick up that medium of expression?
If we go full circle, if we go back to Max Gaines, the father of Bill Gates, he his contribution was to comic books that he can stitch them, he can make them smaller, but as a giveaway to sell commercial products, to sell appliances. It was a giveaway to entice kids to come into a store and say, oh, I want to go to this store, and that buys the appliance or whatever. And this is how comic books started. I mean, this is going full circle. But
remember that Max Gaines didn't work for DC Comics originally. He worked for Eastern Color Printing.
Exactly. He's the guy who helped creating Wonder Woman. I mean, he had All American Comics, which was folded into DC Comics eventually. But I know Al wants to talk about the new Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, man. Again, folks, we fall into our rabbit holes, but I let these guys talk because I'm learning so much. I'm taking news because there's so much shit I got to check out. This is why I love talking.
And we're just making conversation, right, guys?
Yeah.
Exactly. We're just chilling and having a coffee here and talking.
Here's what you having a coffee. I don't know about Dr. G. Look, he's wearing lemonade. And only me and Dave are probably rocking out.
I live in the desert. Okay. I live in the desert. I have to stay hydrated.
I'm doing I'm doing hot dogs later, so I'm
staying hydrated as well.
Beer.
What have you got there, Dave?
It's actually blueberry and lemon gin, with a little bit of ginger beer in it.
Just so y'all know, it's 11 a.m. here, so I'm going to go have my mezcal this evening.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't join you guys, it's because it's just too damn early. Al, you nuts? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's only. Yeah, listen, it's 1:56 here, but it's 3 o'clock somewhere.
But we want to hear about Al's love for that new Spider-Man movie.
All right, listen. I loved Spider-Man. People say, "Oh, it did fan service." I don't give a shit. I'm a fan. I loved it, and the fact that people are loving Andrew Garfield, I told Wifey from when I saw Amazing Spider-Man, I'm like, yo, this dude reminds me so much of a Ditko Peter Parker. Like, for me, he's the perfect Ditko Peter Parker. Toby was the perfect Spider-Man. Tom Holland, he's cool. He's good. I'm not going to shit on him. But to see these two people come back and to see the love that Garfield is getting, I mean, I was just floored. The story moved me. It kept moving along. You know, you get that brotherly love. You get the family feel. You get action. You get pieces of Marvel all over the place. The goddamn fucking the mid credit and then the post credit. My God, I mean, Marvel fucked me up with this movie. And again, bringing in originals. I mean, Green Goblin. I mean, William Dafoe. God damn, bro. There was a specific scene when Spider-Man was beating him up. I said, yo, bro, you look like the Joker in this particular scene. I mean, why wasn't William Dafoe not been the Joker? But again, everybody did their thing. What was it, Mr. Molina as Otto Octavius, and
he was very good actually.
He was amazing, and I love that one scene when he said his name. My name is Otto Octavius. Like, get out of here! Like, yo, really, bro, stop lying.
I'll tell you what I thought was really clever about it is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is doing something that DC does not seem interested or capable of doing, which is building in continuity in all the movies, and that goes back to Tobey Maguire, Toby Spidey looking at Garfield Spidey and going, you know, you are amazing, man.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
People love that.
I mean, I think I've mentioned it before, but the reason that
thank you, Marshall.
You'll never get that from DC is
Agreed.
DC is just purely it's just bean counters, and it's why DC Comics is still like, you know, there's no consistency to what DC are doing. They're doing some good stuff again. They're doing some kind of almost independent books under their black label, but it's still
the black label is fire.
But it's in there's almost like, what is it? Like, there's a what is it to DC? Like, what is it?
It's the new Vertigo. It's the new Vertigo. Then Vertigo.
But that's what it is this week. Like, you know, it's like
bro, you got Swamp Thing and Hell coming out this week. That's deep dark story.
Well, you have to remember the reason Vertigo worked is because it had an overarching editorial vision, which was Karen
Berger. Exactly.
You know, Dave, that's a great point, and I've often speculated. You know, the culture at Marvel was Stan Lee going, "Okay, here's what we're doing," and bringing people in. The culture at DC was, Weisinger's gonna do the Superman books. Schwartz is gonna do the other books. So they did not have editorial valence there. They had walls there, and they're still functioning that way. They're
Wait,
still
are you
That's
telling
absolutely
me-
right. That's absolutely correct. Greg is absolutely right. They had these fiefdoms, and that's why we didn't have Superman and Batman in the Justice League in the
But
beginning,
is that
because
normal though?
Weisinger was like, this is my character, and
it's
Jack,
normal for a lot of
Jack
companies
Schiff.
that it's
Yes,
normal for a
exactly.
lot of companies that have different departments where they end up
Exactly.
fighting with each
So
other.
are you telling me this would be normal for Image that Image is the umbrella, and then you have Top Cow.
Well,
and
but
those
because Image is a creator-driven company, they can invite each other into their worlds.
Exactly.
But
And
that's the
DC,
difference
as
between-
Dave said, DC is a capitalist culture that had editorial departments exploiting those pieces and protecting them. And that what would you have? World's Finest is where they might bring Superman.
I love every time when people post some guerrilla cover on Twitter and say, oh, those good old days with DC Comics. That was Irving Donenfeld, the idiot son of Harry Donenfeld, who said, I understand gorillas sell well in comic books. Let's put some gorillas on there. And we had this book creator who wanted to tell a nice story, and put the gorilla on the
Here's your cover. Here's your cover.
Mm-hmm.
Write a story. Yet what's interesting though is this takes us all the way back to Max Gaines and All American Comics, because that's wait for it, guys, because that was an editorial purview where they said, let's see what we can do with all of our characters. And as you well know.
Oh, here we go. Amazing.
What a tease.
Look at this.
This guy,
Look at this. Amazing.
Yeah.
And if you look at this, half of the characters here, if not more, are national American. Was it?
Yes,
American
all American. And then you have the honorary. Then you have the honorary DC characters.
Exactly.
And the reason I wanted to hold that picture up, among the reasons, is that's mythology, folks.
Yeah,
that's mythology. Right. And DC editorially, we can talk about the Crisis on Infinite Earths, but they did start to realize, and maybe it was the pressure of Marvel, that they had to have continuity. And for a while there, DC really did have this sense of epic. But I think what really exemplifies how they spoiled it for themselves is every bloody time they try to make a Superman movie, they try to tell the biblical story of Superman again and again. Stop with it. Stop with it.
We should know.
And if you
say, Dave.
Sorry, it's not just that. I think Marvel really lucked out in finding someone like Kevin Feige, a producer that grew up with Marvel comics.
Mm-hmm.
He loves
absolutely.
Comics.
Absolutely.
And he knew both as a fan and he knew the audience well enough that if you wanted to hook them, you had to, sure, you can make changes. You can make changes to the characters and the costumes and stuff. But as long as you put enough of what they like, story beats, certain characters, things they say,
integrated continuity.
Exactly.
Yeah, he basically looked at the Universal Monster movies. They're also connected. And he looked at those and said, well, we can do this too. It's the Marvel characters.
Warner Brothers honestly don't give a shit. It's basically, hey, yes, we know in Batman we've got this awesome, high-class car. It's Rolls-Royce outside our door. Here's the keys. Go and drive.
Have some Chris Nolan doing his Batman series. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. And maybe it is really written in their DNA, because we have already mentioned this. We know the history of Marvel. Everybody who's tuning in knows the history of Marvel. But what about the history of DC Comics? Because we had National Comics, we had DC Comics, and we had All American. And they were all folded into one company, but originally were three different companies. Superman and Batman, I mean, this is still what blows people's mind. Originally, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman were published by three different companies.
Yeah, man. And then it became the Trinity.
Exactly. Harry Donenfeld had a stake in all companies, and he bankrupted his partner, Malcolm Wheeler Nicholson, and he stole DC Comics from under him, and he forced Max Gaines out of All American. But basically, you had
National Periodical Publications, which became DC Comics, and a subsidiary was American Comics. You want to go back and look at a comic book called Comic Cavalcade? It's the Flash. Exactly. It's the Flash, it's Green Lantern, and it's Wonder Woman. And that was where Sheldon Mayer said, what if we did put those in one book together? And these are B-string characters down here, but they're working together.
But they were all developed by All American. and Max Gaines was in charge, even though Harry Donenfeld had a share, and Harry Donenfeld had rumored ties to the mafia. He said in 48, 49, come on, sell me your shares. And who was Max to say, no, I don't? Then he went on to publish Bible stories from the Bible.
Picture stories from the Bible. He took that $1 million and said, we're going to do comic books as art. And his son, when Max Gaines died, his son was like, we're going to do what? Educational comics. Educational comics. So that's what we're doing here.
And there's a story to be had, because did Max beat his son? I mean, this leads us right into the comics code, because it's basically getting the beating from his father made him go on trial and give witness. I mean, this is such just a horrible story.
That's deep stuff, Chris. Oh my God.
Yeah, bro. So let's get back on track. Once again, we went down that rabbit hole, folks. This is what we do. But Spider-Man, I want to just know overall score, and then I want to move on to another thing. So overall score, Dave, what you thought Spider-Man? Give me a score out of 5.
Out of 5, okay.
Well, just out of pure enjoyment, and I'm not talking about it as art or anything else.
Enjoyment, man.
Just as a fan who kind of felt that film kind of bookended every single Spider-Man film that's ever come out. I'd say 5.
Wow.
Because just from the enjoyment of it. And I do think that I blanked on his name. Fucking hell.
Tom Holland.
No, not Tom Holland.
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield.
Toby.
Garfield, by far, has been the best Spider-Man. Unfortunately, he didn't have the films. If he'd been in these last couple of films, they would have been awesome.
He revived it.
Thank you.
Revived it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Bad scripts like that. Oh my God!
But
the lizard.
Starting with at least the third Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, which did not function.
No, it didn't.
Yeah,
no. But would you agree with my statement earlier that Garfield is very much a Ditko Peter Parker?
He has that lanky build, sure. He has that lanky build, but he's a little bit too popular and too slick in the first movies. I mean, he's quite popular actually.
I think
exactly
of the 3, Tobey Maguire only because he's not handsome. Like, and I don't, if you look back at the first Ditko Spider-Mans, he wasn't a good-looking kid.
Exactly.
Slowly,
it wasn't until me to touch that pen, son.
No. Are you saying that? Are you saying that out because
Steve Ditko drew a good-looking Peter Parker, but he was Peter Parker. I mean, it wasn't.
He was a kid. He was an actual kid. Yeah.
He was plain.
I mean, there was somebody who said, my friend Jason Henderson said, if you look at Anthony Perkins in Psycho, that's your Ditko Peter Parker. And he's spot on.
Al, I have a question for you. Is one of the reasons you favor Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man is because he brought that nervous anxiety kind of component of Peter Parker?
Yes. For me, again, reading that era
that's why I think
Peter
he's the best
back
one.
in the
That's
day,
why I
from the
think
80s, for me, it's like he fit the narrative. Now, I love that people are celebrating him now. But when the movie came out, why don't you go look back on social media then, and they were shitting on him.
Yeah,
I'm like, and even then, I still say, "Yo, this is a fantastic Spider-Man. You motherfuckers are crazy."
It shows you how crucial the director is to a film.
Yeah.
I agree.
And the writer, if
absolutely,
those films, if Andrew Garfield's films had been well written and better directed, he would have had the love.
Yeah, he would have been the Spider-Man.
But in all fairness, to the director of the first of the 2 Amazing Spider-Man movies, we clearly saw that there was a lot of studio interference in the second movie. They took out whole scenes that were in the trailer that were important to the narrative about Peter and Harry. They took out a lot of stuff there.
You're talking about the first Spider-Man? Yes.
No, the second one.
The Amazing.
The Amazing. We saw they really took a lot of stuff, and the movie.
Well, it puts me in mind of Star Trek. There's an exploitable property. Paramount, of course, owns it. Paramount wants to capitalize on it, and that first Star Trek movie. What is going on here? Except exactly what Dave was talking about. corporate committees
Interference.
trying to decide what's going to make that movie work.
Corporate interference, and they're not even
Exactly.
fans.
No, you see,
There's too much money on the line.
They gave the keys to the car to J.J. Abrams, who wasn't a Star Wars fan.
And it's the problem.
And when
Star
they
Trek.
wrote the first draft of that script, they didn't have Dr. McCoy in it because none of them had watched enough Star Trek to know that he was one of the main characters.
He was not a fan. He was not a fan.
So why would you give somebody the keys? That doesn't even
because let's also be honest here, J.J. Abrams. I mean, I'm getting shit for this on social media, but J.J. Abrams is a great director and a good writer. I was watching Lost again over the holidays. The pilot of Lost is still one of the best pilots in television.
Okay,
no, I'm not wrong.
Look
at the pilot for Lost.
Wait.
It's well directed. It's excellent.
Okay,
it's excellent.
I'll make that up. I'll make that up, Chris. Didn't he do what was that? The Cloverfield?
He didn't do Cloverfield.
No,
he was the producer on that. That's the guy who's doing the new Batman movie. That's Matt Reeves.
Okay,
Matt Reeves
he spent money on that one. Okay, at least he was involved in something good because I like Cloverfield.
Okay, but that's Matt Reeves. That's your new Batman director here.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
So I have a question. I have a question for you, Dave. We're talking about independent producers, like the Underground revived some of the comic book industry. We're looking for underground creators who make it into a larger market. What did you think of the Hollywood films, sort of like History of Violence?
Great film.
You know, those are independent comics that have turned into something. Really have something to contribute to the cultural dialogue.
Absolutely.
But it's different. You see, I mean, like, all right, that made a good film. I think one of the things you're not going to make a franchise out of Road to Perdition or History of Violence. There is that other side of Hollywood. Yes, two really good films, and that is something that comics can do. They are capable of bringing some really good material, and you can make, and make excellent films out of them. You can also take some really shitty comics and make some good movies out of them.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, like, I was about to say Men in Black, but I mean really only the first film.
That was all right.
Yeah, Men in Black. You really, honestly don't want to go looking for the comic.
Yeah, I heard about that. That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
But
sometimes you need a good idea.
Concept and turn it into a great movie.
Exactly.
Or good
Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Right.
And see, Scott Pilgrim, I felt was a great movie. I really liked it. I liked the comics.
Worked as a movie. Really worked as a film.
It did. Unfortunately, I think the problem was there. It was like remember when Watchmen was first released, it was considered a failure. And Scott Pilgrim, when it was released, it's an independent story. You're treating it like a fucking new Batman movie. You spent a fucking close to $100 million on it. You should have tried to make that for $10 million.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
That's what it should. You just it's like, right. So let's spend billions. No, just make it for $10 million. Like, show what you want that scene in it, and it needs all this effect. Sorry, you're gonna have to find some of the.
I go back to the first Star Trek movie, the very first Star Trek movie. Again, we've got this property, we have to exploit it. We want to make a big blockbuster out of it. Star Wars had just happened, and they didn't know what they were doing with the property. They didn't really start utilizing the fan devotion and the continuity of Star Trek until the second Wrath of Khan, which is where they actually. But I think what happened with the reboot is that they were trying so hard to contextualize Star Trek in its original setting, the original series, and they, maybe they didn't know McCoy was supposed to be there originally, but they're really working on that original cast dynamic there. We're really trying to.
It's also quite interesting that they moved it to a new universe. Because
They
moved it into a new universe,
but they also brought in the original audience.
But they moved it into a new universe because J.J. Abrams' company would get higher royalties on the toys if they moved it away from the original.
Unfortunately,
that's why they did it.
Because this is the problem with J.J. Abrams, which is why I think he's just a hack. JJ having screwed up Star Trek. I mean, and again, I know it was financially popular. A lot of people came in. It did financially well. The second film didn't do so well, which I think was purely because a lot of people who saw the first one was like, "Oh, that's not Star Trek."
They understood. They
Exactly.
understood.
Exactly.
Yes, there you go.
So they
Exactly.
backed off. They backed
Marshall.
off.
Yeah.
Right.
However, but to finish my thought on
He also lost a cast member.
Yeah.
That's-
So J.J. Abrams,
Not until the third movie. Not until the third movie.
because J.J. Abrams, all he wants is money.
Exactly.
He falls into that category of people who's just like, I've reached this stage now where I can get X amount of millions per movie, but that's not enough because I want to get merchandising. So what happened is they put all the merchandising out for the reboot. At the same time, CBS put out merchandising for the original Star Trek movie.
That's absolutely true, and they murdered it.
All the original series stuff, all the original
So great.
Star Trek sold out. They had to go back, make more,
exactly.
sold out, and all
Exactly.
the reboot stuff was still sitting on the shelves.
Exactly, that's true.
And what JJ did is he went to Paramount and demanded
That they stop selling the old ones.
No.
Yes.
He demanded a cut
Yes.
of the original series merchandising.
Okay.
Because
He adopted
said,
the argument that he was the one amping
made it
the
popular.
interest
Exactly.
again.
Who made it
and
popular?
they basically and they told him to fuck off.
Is he
Literally
fucking
Exactly.
crazy? Is
Which
he
is-
crazy?
Which
It's
is
like
why
me
he didn't.
saying,
Hey,
listen.
Now,
You can't blame a guy for trying.
a
You can't
skeleton
blame a
key
guy
to
for
this
trying.
point. A skeleton key to the point Dave is making, which is a fantastic point. Since we're talking about Spider-Man, Marvel's not interested in buying out Sony, trying to bring those rights back. They own the merchandising rights to
Exactly.
Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Boom. Sony can do whatever they want. Sony will spin out eventually, and they'll come to Marvel and say, take it. Because right now they have a 50-50 split on these movies. Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Just like, okay, we've done what we can with these. We can't do anything else with these things. It's kind of like X-Men and Fantastic Four. How many Fantastic Four movies, I mean, aside ours, how many Fantastic Four movies are we going to have to see before they get the tone of that?
Right. Get it right.
Exactly.
Goddamn, get it right already. This has been since the goddamn 60s. How could you motherfuckers?
Speaking of Lee and Kirby, you know, Kirby came to Marvel at the beginning of Marvel being Marvel, not Timely, and said, "Well, we got to come up with something." You know, I was doing this thing called Challengers of the Unknown, which is a pretty cool idea.
Hey,
what if we revamped it a little bit and called it, I don't know, and there's.
And Stan's contribution was, let's put my wife in there, and she doesn't say anything.
My fantasy about Stan Lee is he's sitting there going, Superman's the biggest selling comic book of all time, Superman. Well, what if we called him, I don't know, something weird, Spider-Man? If you even look at the logo, you're like, something's going on here.
Oh, look at
Okay.
Look what Marshall says. Marshall says, I don't want a Fantastic Four. That's endgame type stuff of Marvel on Earth, at least.
Because
really?
Because of Galactus, Marshall? Why is that?
Yeah, Marshall,
Exactly.
we need more clarification because we need Fantastic Four. That's the first
We
thing.
need a Fantastic Four movie. We need
a proper Fantastic Four.
And I'm looking forward to the Alex Ross graphic novel here. Even though everybody was typing on it.
They've introduced the cosmic side of the Marvel universe, so it's only like what better characters from Marvel to actually explore that than the Fantastic Four.
Bring the Silver Surfer. Make a Silver Surfer movie.
They did set the stage as characters. They really set the stage.
I didn't get to finish my slagging off of J.J. Abrams.
He said slagging. Wait a minute.
Please, go ahead.
So,
you my guest.
It's 2 minutes.
Well,
exactly.
Well, you know how crap Force Awakens was? Like, it was just that hits melody.
I couldn't finish that thing. Oh, yeah. First Force Awakens, the first one. Oh.
Yeah, it was just a hits melody thing. It was just a bit of this, bit of that, blah, blah, blah. So, C-3PO has a red arm in it. The Millennium Falcon did actually have, I think it was like its dish.
Satellite dish. Yeah.
The satellite dish was a different shape from before. J.J. Abrams insisted on those because it was the only way he was going to see merchandise from either of them.
Exactly.
He wanted all new characters. He and Kathleen Kennedy wanted all new characters in it, and they wanted to kill off the original members as quickly as possible because they both.
Right.
Oh, I don't know what Kathleen Kennedy's fully motives were, but JJ's was, if we put all these new characters in it, I will see money from
authorship.
Forever.
Yes, exactly.
Forever and ever and ever. I'm going to get a constant.
But on the other hand,
I'm
not blaming him. I'm not blaming him.
But to go back to Captain Marvel, this is exactly what DC is doing with Shazam. They've got this new logo, they've got this new treatment, and what they're trying to do is hold on to the character. They don't own the trademark because all of that Fawcett material, ladies and gentlemen, Otto Binder's work, etc., about to hit the public domain. The public domain.
It's already on the public domain. It's on if you want to read those great stories, most of them are available digitally on the Digital Comic Museum. If you go to that great website, Digital Comic Museum, you will find a lot of the Shazam stories there.
But do you see what Marvel's saying?
But DC has blown it again because who owns the trademark in Shazam? We already have digital apps called Shazam. The one thing that Martin Goodman despised in the 1940s is Fawcett came out with a character called Captain Marvel, and he said, Marvel is my company, Marvel is my name. And as soon as there was some suggestion that name was available,
bro.
And as Dave says, the only reason for Marvel's Captain Marvel, whatever he looks like or she looks like, the only reason for Marvel's Captain Marvel is to hold on to that name.
Yeah, well, you know what, though? I'm a website owner, right? There are names that I've seen people try to take from us. Like, I watch them names like a hawk. I put the shit on my calendar. Oh, it expired? Let me make sure I could grab it before they do.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, that's the business nowadays, yo. I mean, when you
absolutely.
Your brand and your business, I mean, regardless of it, it is what it is. And now look, Marshall over here says that he understands Fantastic Four is coming. He doesn't want to have traction because he feels that Marvel Earth, 616 is coming.
616, yeah.
Let's talk 616. That's what it is, right? And then he's saying, I think of it like West Coast Avengers and the regular Avengers, And right now, West Coast is getting so hot. And then he goes, who do you want to keep? Who do you want gone? I mean, Thanos was an eternal deviant, so they changed the whole story just like that. He was right. Was he?
Well, the Thanos story was also essential mechanically because you have actors who've been playing those characters for 10 years, and we have to make dispensation. This is what what is it, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness?
Madness, yes.
See, if I was Marvel at this stage, one of the possible thoughts I would have is because you've lost like half of your main Avengers actors and characters because they got too old, they've moved out, and so they're dead now, or whatever. So
made enough money.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, no, never made enough money. No,
but they're too expensive. They're too expensive now.
No, but so if you have the multiverse and you decide like, oh, okay, well, if this is in fact the universe 616 or whatever it is
it?
And whatever universe it is, what if you have like a series of movies that basically destroy the multiverse and it all gets ruined and gets broken up, and it gets a bit like in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then they start again, and what they launch is Fantastic Four to start, then the X-Men, and then the Avengers, and the Avengers, and it's a new universe, and so you
can feel it coming. That's why they bought Fox Studios.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
That makes the most sense. And then it'll bring in the old, it'll bring in the new. And again, anytime one of these movies comes out, let's be honest, graphic novel sales do go up. While the kids are not going to the comic shop, at least they go to a Barnes and Nobles and pick up a graphic novel. I've seen this. Kind of as a trend.
I think more likely what you're getting is you're getting the parents buying them graphic novels because
not just the parents, because as a parent myself,
you're also getting that.
But as the parent myself, though, I have my daughter ask me like, "Yo, are there books on this?" And I could say, "Oh shit." Oh yeah! All of a sudden, Daddy's getting his geek on. I said, "Yeah, baby, let's go to the comic shop or to the bookstore."
What you mean? You don't let your kids read your comics?
No one is touching my comics.
His holy Conan.
I let my son read a bunch. I used to buy my son tons of comics because obviously,
he says to me,
I don't take care of my comics. I don't take care of them. They're just here to be read. And that's the idea about it not being a precious commodity. Comics are stories to read. Let's read these stories. You know, that's why they call these popcorn movies, you know. So when you're talking about, a scale of audience, what do you do with comics? Like, you know, the Japanese stuff, the manga stuff is still very popular, but it's supported by animation. It's supported by games. There's a vast library of big, thick books those kids can slam through. In American comics, you know, you have the genre ghettos, and you have a very limited. Dave said it really great. I mean, you have almost constant creator turnover.
Yep.
I mean, the Image Boys were
constant. It is constant. I mean,
the Image Boys were brilliant. They realized, oh my goodness, we have been able to achieve an audience of 1 million apiece with our characters. What if we had our own characters? Would they come with us? And a lot of people thought they were absolutely out of their minds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is Image Comics still around?
Of course.
Yeah, but they also were able
not
to
the same
go with
Image
the times.
Comics,
Exactly, I was about to say that they were willing to go with the times, and they changed completely. They are for the longest time the new Vertigo.
They've diversified very well. They've diversified very well.
Yeah.
I mean, who's left? I mean, other than Savage Dragon, Spawn.
Well, I don't know what happened with Jim Lee. Oh, right, he sold himself to DC Comics.
That's true. That was also always the idea that you had your own studio, that Image didn't own anything.
What did Jim Lee want? Jim Lee wanted ownership.
Exactly.
Ownership. And he had so much ownership that when he sold himself, excuse me, Jim Lee, when he sold himself to DC Comics, he actually merged with DC Comics.
Oh, he merged. Because now we got Superman and the Authority. I mean, who would have thought, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean,
he knew the industry very well.
But Wildstorm put out some great books. Let's be honest.
Jim had to sell to
Wildstorm
DC.
was amazing.
Jim, it was his book. The Wildstorm books weren't doing well.
Wildstorm books. That's right.
Yeah, so that's
Stormwatch, Wildcat. I mean, they were great storybooks, but people just weren't buying. But they were great books.
But when you talk about Jim Lee, are you talking about a great artist? I'm not opening this up to debate. Are you talking about a great creator? I'm not opening this up to debate.
Okay.
You saw someone who understood the structure of the industry.
Yeah,
that's absolutely true.
Put himself in a position to profit by that. Great businessman.
Yeah,
in that respect.
Absolutely. Shall we talk about Dune?
Oh, Dune!
Hold on. Have we finished?
Wait.
Okay. I said 5 out of 5 for Spider-Man. Greg?
Okay.
Greg? What's his score?
Oh, geez, I forgot. I'm not going to debate what went before. I'm going to say as a pure, pleasing piece of popcorn. It was a 5. It brought in everything. Brought in all the pieces, tied it all together, gave the old people a chance to see Andrew Garfield and go, you know, he deserved a second shot. Gave the other people a chance to see Tobey Maguire and go, there's the gravity. Maybe he's going to redeem himself for that horrible third movie, whatever. I give it a 5. And I have to say, I really think they've done a stroke of genius with Tom Holland. He's young. He's enthusiastic. He's got charisma, he's got character. I think they tied it all together nicely. The only better Spider-Man movie I've seen in terms of just pure satisfaction was into the Spideyverse.
Yeah. And before we move on to Chris, I do want to say thank you, because when they say MJ and Zendaya says, I'm not Mary Jane, I'm Michelle Jones. Like, thank you. You're not trying to take away the MJ character. You have a new MJ, a whole new character. They just happen to share the initials.
Including her falling off the Gainsborough Bridge.
And, you know?
And Andrew being able to redeem himself.
That moment, bro, that just struck a chord with me. I'm like, oh,
the audience ate that up.
Again, because if you read the comic book originally, you know that Spider-Man was at fault for Gwen's death because you had the snap.
True.
And then after the original issue, you never saw the snap again. So it's like, oh, this Spider-Man.
Speaking of that issue, is it 123? The last page of that issue. Peter Parker is distraught, and Mary Jane walks in and says, "Hey, man, what's going on?" And he reads her the riot act. He says, "Mary Jane, you've always been nothing. Go away." And she looks shocked. You can see it. I'm trying. Wasn't that a Ramita issue? And she's about to leave because he tells her to get out.
Jill Kane, and it's a wonderful Jerry Conway writing.
Great story, Jerry Conway. Great storytelling. You see that door click, and that was the beginning of Spidey and MJ.
And Marshall's there. There was a lot of key parts, like Spider-Man asking for an ambulance when his aunt, died. Aunt May was the Uncle Ben in this universe.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect that. And let me tell you that, I don't know what's happening with Omega, but at 46 years old, I'm becoming a softie because that shit put the only lump in my throat. I said, no, man, not Marissa. You killing her, yo?
Oh yeah,
that's a great point, Marshall, because one of the things Marvel I think is really done beautifully is acknowledge first responders.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely true. Absolutely.
And that particular line that it doesn't need to only hold to Uncle Ben saying that. Like here we go, Aunt May before she dies tells him the same words Uncle Ben uses.
Yes, absolutely cool.
But those were the first times they were uttered in the Tom Holland Spider-Man.
In the Tom Holland universe.
That's true. That's very true.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Still, I'm the odd man out. I give the movie 3.5.
3.5
makes me wonder, Dave, what Sony stipulates in their ownership of the movie rights. If maybe that was one of them. You never know. It's a motto, right?
So,
I mean, it's an identifying piece of that property.
So here's a thing that I noticed from one of the end credits that really sort of it left me scratching. Like, where's he from? See, Venom.
Okay.
He disappears because he gets sucked back into
He's
his
in a different universe.
Yeah, he's in the same universe as a Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
No, he isn't.
So isn't he in theory Tobey Maguire's universe?
Yeah,
No.
That's what I'm saying.
That was a different Venom. That was a different Venom.
I know Tobey Maguire. That was what's his name? Topher Grace.
He was Tom Hardy. Tom
Hardy at the end of the movie, and if you go back and look at Venom 2, at the end, there's Tom Holland with his mask off on TV, and Venom gets angry, goes and licks the TV. So he must be.
Interesting.
There is a universe with Tom Holland as Spider-Man, but without the Avengers.
Yes, and in that movie, I think Tobey Maguire says, "Oh yeah, I had a black suit of goo. I had an encounter with goo."
Yep.
Yeah, but not the same universe, Dave. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
I love when Tom mentioned the Avengers and the other two Spider-Man. Like, who? What? That's a club? Is that a club? I loved it.
It's really fun. I'm really looking forward to the Doctor Strange movie. That's Sam Raimi.
Yeah, but let's move on, man.
Sam Raimi.
We're killing it here, but because of Chris, we're about at a 4.7. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I ruled it for you, but 4.7 is still good. Come on now.
But, okay.
So what was Chris? What was how many did you give it?
He said 3.5.
3.5.
Look at this guy.
No, you got to explain what did that for you.
It's not a good movie. It's not a good movie. It's not a good
piece of cinema, right?
It's not a good movie because I put this on my as I said, I put this on my Twitter feed, and I was really looking forward to the answers of these guys. I didn't say anything. I just said discuss. And there was a lot of people who came in and had the same problems with the movie I had. I mean, you can say, oh, great fan service this, and Tobey Maguire came in. There's so many things that are wrong with this movie. Where I said, okay, it's entertaining. It's better than I thought it would be. I had some fun with it. Today I was just watching a few scenes and said, okay, do I really want to watch it the second time? No.
I have to ask you a question. I'm not going to challenge that, but I have to ask you. So the Star Wars Solo movie, the Han Solo movie,
horrible.
The first time I watched it, I was like, oh boy, let's just retread this until we're done with it all. I felt the same way about the recent Darth Vader, the Children of Skywalker movie. However, when I watched it a second time, several years later, on its own terms, kind of works.
That's always different. It's always different. Have I watched movies that I didn't like and then watched them 10 years later and said, wow, this is a great movie? Of course. You can always change your mind. If you ask me today, I liked it a little bit more when I finished the movie. I said, "Oh, that was kind of fun." Then I thought a little bit more about it, and I didn't like it so much anymore.
But when you saw the recent Star Wars, didn't you sit there and go, so they really just decided to tell the same story over again, just jigger the characters around?
Oh.
No, the thing is, I have a very strange history with Star Wars, because when the first movie came out, A New Hope, when it came to Germany, I wasn't allowed to watch it. So I was probably the only kid on my block who wasn't allowed to watch it. Myself, I said, no, this is shit. You're too young, you cannot watch this. And the first Star Wars movie I saw was the second movie. I went in and said, this is great. The good guys lose. I love this movie.
You got to see the best one first. Cool.
Exactly. I said, I love this. The good guys lose, and after that it was downhill for me. I liked the first one, which I saw eventually. I liked the second one, hate the third one, and I have no feelings about the new ones. I hate them all. But the thing is, I've come around to the prequel trilogy, talking about changing your mind, because I was probably like everybody, saw the first sequel, a prequel. I said, what was that shit? I can see what Lucas was trying to do. And what I heavily borrowed for my second book is this one scene, which I absolutely love, and I loved it the first time around. At the end of the Revenge of the Sith, when they open the door and they go right into New Hope. I thought that was brilliant. Because it completely connects, and now he starts he's going into this world, and this is where it starts. I absolutely love that.
Well, as narrative structure, I'll grant you that. As storytelling, God. And as direction, which is what we were talking about before.
They're not great movies. They're not great movies, but I can see what Lucas was going for, and he's not a great writer. And he needed people to tell him, George, no, don't do this. But there was an idea behind those movies, and you don't have this with the new movies. There is no idea behind the new movies. And that's
I would like just to add, since we did at one point talk about Lee and Kirby, how much of the DNA of Star Wars comes directly from Jack Kirby.
Absolutely, that's undebatable.
Yeah, I think we so much. Online, I think.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think it was with might have been with Daryl Epps. We were discussing. We started listing not just the comics but the films. We talked earlier about the Matrix and how many who borrowed what for the Matrix. Star Wars was exactly the same.
Exactly.
It was so many things, and again, who knows if we might not have had Star Wars if King's Features had let George Lucas do Flash Gordon.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
I met him in person in Massachusetts, and he still looks in great shape.
Flash Gordon.
The Flash Gordon from the movie.
Sam
I was
Jones.
like, why are you not
Yes.
Sam Jones?
Sam.
Yes. And he's still in great shape. I was like, why are you not
absolutely loved that movie when I saw it as a kid. I mean, I also saw the 1930s series at that time because they were on television in Germany, but I love that movie. It's a good movie.
I love those old serials. Absolutely.
I gotta ask you.
Speaking of which, I'm sorry, Chris, to interrupt you here, but speaking of which, Captain Marvel was so famous in his day that he was the very first serial from.
And he had a great serial, still held in high regard as one of the best.
Holds up pretty well.
Dr. G, I want to thank you for bringing that up, because let me tell you that my father was not the comic book fan in my life. It was my mom that introduced me to that, right? But when it came to superheroes, he used to tell me, son, when I was smaller, I used to watch Shazam in the theaters. I mean, and we're talking about this serial. So my brothers happened to show him that I got the serial, and so in the first episode, my old man was like, he went back to his childhood. He was like, oh my God, how the fuck did you find this? My father doesn't curse.
I'll give you another example of that.
He tells me, how the fuck did you find this? I'm like, wow. But Pop, enjoy it. I mean, let me take you back to your childhood, because again, he let me enjoy mine, right? So if I could actually introduce him to his, reintroduce him to his at this old age, I'm more than happy to do that. And so the reason I say that before you guys continue is like, I want
Elvis
you guys
Presley.
to do that.
Elvis Presley's favorite comic book of all time, in fact, modeled his Vegas show costume on that of Captain Marvel 2.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
And the reason I mention it is all of these deep threads of influence that we can follow. They're just
Absolutely,
astounding.
always.
I mean, okay.
Always.
So Elvis was a fan, and then Nicolas Cage married Elvis's daughter, and then Elvis's daughter sells half of Nick Cage's collection.
Yeah.
God damn,
and she married Michael Jackson, didn't she?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna say that shit right here. You know that shit was just I don't know what was going on there. You know that shit wasn't real though.
Okay, let's talk about Dune.
Yes, please, because Dune, I love this Dune compared to the 80s movie. Oh my effing god! Like, yo, my wife was like, "Yo, can we do this?" I'm like, "When this movie finishes, babe." She's like, "Ew, really?" I'm like, "Ew, really?" Because this movie is better than the 80s version. 175 fucking %.
But it's also once again we talked about this, and this is how it puts a nice bow on everything. Because famously, when Dino De Laurentiis was looking for a director, he phoned David Lynch and he said, "What, you want me to make a movie called Dune?" And the only reason why David Lynch came on board was because Dino said, "Okay, you do this one movie for me. I pay you a small budget movie." And since he wanted to do well, he went on board and did this. David Lynch had no love for this. His DNA is over it a little bit, but he
you mean Dino De Laurentiis, the producer of the original Flash Gordon movie?
Exactly. But Denis Villeneuve has a lot of love for Dune, and it shows. He was really invested in the story, and you really can tell there's a creator who has a love for the source material. That makes all the difference.
I will have. This is my comment about Dune. The current Dune, I think Timothée Chalamet is a star who's going to go on forever. He's an amazing.
He's very good at this movie.
This is my comment about Dune. Jodorowsky should have given the chance to make his version of it. The documentary on Jodorowsky.
Absolutely not. Because then you wouldn't have gotten. We wouldn't have gotten Alien. And Alien was a better movie. We wouldn't have gotten Alien. Here you go. But at the end of the day, I think
it would have been.
You know that movie was never going to be made. That's part of the beauty of it. You know that movie was never going to be made.
Exactly. But it's great documentary. Exactly. Great documentary.
Is that? You were talking about the documentary, Dave?
Yeah, I mean the documentary was great. But it's you could see in the documentary exactly why it was going to be a complete clusterfuck. I mean, if they were going to live stream the production as it was being made, so we got to see inside the offices, we saw the actors and everything behind. That would have been amazing because seeing that would have been it. Like what would eventually end up on screen would not have been entertaining. Watching Salvador Dali walking around on set with a pair of anteaters, walking his anteaters.
All I'm saying is that in another universe, wow.
Yeah,
sure.
8-hour movie. Was that an 8-hour movie or whatever?
If the Russian mafia really wanted to fucking launder all their money, by all means, give it to Jodorowsky.
That's like the producer. It's like the producers here. Dune was a great movie. I really enjoyed that movie. That was like it's a little bit slow, and I have issues with it, pacing issues. But it's a good movie. I really liked it.
Well, it was slow because he was planning to make 2 movies out of it, and he didn't. He wasn't forced to compress.
It's only the first half of the book. Yeah, and it finishes in the middle of the second act, basically. So if you see the second movie, then it's one complete movie.
Yeah,
we hope.
I mean, I liked David Lynch's film.
It's okay. It's absolutely fine.
Film, and when you realize later on the restrictions that he had in making it,
absolutely.
I go back again to what I was saying. The director is crucial.
Yeah, and a lot of the design of it, the look, a lot of the casting, I thought was great.
I mean, can you imagine David Lynch? Can you imagine David Lynch directing the third Star Wars movie? Because he was also up for that.
Oh, I know.
I mean, that would have been amazing.
That the sandworms from the first movie also kind of translate really well in this new movie. They did that back then, but I don't know. Back then, it's just I don't know. They took too long to get to the point. Whereas this new movie really got to it quick. We were really, really involved in the story. Will we get a sequel on this? I don't know if there's a possibility on that. But
Greenlit. It's been greenlit.
But really, all right.
It's been great.
I mean, it looks good. I mean, I love this one.
Mhm.
I mean, I love the name, and when I was peeping the original, I understood the concepts as a kid when it came out. That's what I was. I was a kid when it came out, but I was like, they could
I'm
do
even
so
more
much more
interested-
with this.
And I'm even more interested, as a guy who hasn't read the books, I'm even more interested because this movie gave us a glimpse at Paul turning to the dark side. I really like that because that's in him, and I like that.
Yeah,
He's
doing
not-
this.
the idea is you shouldn't follow leaders blindly, and this is the kind of story we have here.
Yeah, watch the leaders, watch the parking meters. I'd still like to go back to what Dave was saying though about a creative.
Ooh, Bob Dylan reference here, man. That's a deep cut.
I'd like to go back to what Dave was saying though about this corporate committee version, the restrictions, the liabilities, the expectations of return, and then you have David Lynch. He's an auteur. I don't like everything he's done, but he's an auteur, and even in those constrictions, he still found a way to tell the essence of that story, actually beautifully, not completely.
Yeah, he's a good filmmaker. And that was only his third movie. I mean, come on now. I mean,
no. See again, it's like, was it a perfect movie? No, but I enjoyed it at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd read Dune at that point, and I knew that I wasn't.
Okay.
See, that's the thing. I didn't at that particular time. I didn't care that it wasn't slavishly following the book.
Yeah,
right.
It didn't matter. And for me,
Doesn't need to.
and for me, probably it kind of worked because he didn't have that much of a role in it, but Sting being in it. If he'd been in it more.
Look at Greg getting love from Josh. Like, well said.
Yeah,
Hey,
there you
Joshua.
go.
Hey,
Getting
Joshua.
some excellent.
But every now and then you get a Alan Moore, you get a Steve Englehart, you get a Jerry Conway, maybe you get a Todd McFarlane who comes into this, who comes. He can't argue with his success, although you could argue with his writing. But what I'm saying. My point is that you have these corporate entities, and they're owned and they're protected. Every now and then you get a creator who can come in and just bump it, who can just come in and do something with it.
Give it that boost.
So that says something.
And it's also then when you have the hands-off policy of the company, it says, well, you do your thing. And that's a perfect storm. Yeah, that's a perfect storm. That's the perfect storm.
The company has to have that much vision. And again, I want to refer back to what Dave said with the Kevin Feige. Just a master stroke of good fortune. He knew what he wanted to do. He started carefully, but said, well, the goal here is to actually create this continuity of mythology, if you will, of narrative in the context of a cinematic universe. Can we do it?
Yeah, and we all geeked out. We all geeked out when we saw Samuel L. Jackson at the end of the first Iron Man movie. It was like, wow, what's going on here?
And they work as movies. They work as movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you see what he did, which again DC don't, is it's like you bring on these big name directors and some. Like a lot of people made their names off the Marvel movies, but he still brought in some big name actors, and they played ball because they knew what they were becoming part of.
And the scripts had traction.
It's a little bit like the old studio system. It's a little bit like the old studio system.
Chris, hold on a sec. It was about trying to keep everything on a certain level, and I think what we might start to see coming up is a splintering of where Marvel are going, because I look at things like Blade, where Blade, it really needs to be maybe R-rated. And maybe they're going to have Punisher as well be R-rated. And maybe that
Deadpool.
will be... Yeah, and they'll be outside of that storytelling. So there won't be those elements in it that they won't be saying, oh, you have to watch Punisher before you watch the next movie.
I think of all of those Netflix series having that gritty feel. Yeah.
I think they're also going to do a Daredevil movie.
Yeah, well, they've said now. I think it's official. The Netflix series are all canon.
Okay, cool.
Daredevil is definitely. So again, it was like nice little
Iron
touch.
Fist will probably be forgotten.
Oh, wait a minute.
Iron Fist will be recast, I'm sure.
Wait,
Yes,
thank you for bringing that up. Wait,
good one, Dave. Good one, Dave.
I want to mention this because I don't know if you guys noticed, but in the recent news from Marvel is that Iron Fist will no longer be Danny Rand, but an actual Asian.
Yeah.
They have cast in the comics so that way maybe because the poor actor. Wait, before you go, Greg, I know you I see you, but you're biting your lip. But the poor actor got so much shit because he portrayed Iron Fist because he was a white boy. I mean, you're like, yo, this is the way it was written in books back then. People shouldn't get offended. I mean, they cast it to what the comics were then. He was supposed to be a half and half. Whether he kind of showed that, maybe not. All right, but at the end of the day, like you can't blame the actor. Like, don't shit on him. Blame the production studio. Shit on
and
them.
the director.
Yeah.
Right.
Al,
the only thing I was going to jump in there with, and thank you for stopping me. I get excited.
Yeah.
Props to Bruce Lee, who got cheated out of doing kung fu.
Oh,
and now they're gonna
totally.
and now they're
Totally.
gonna cast to the character as opposed to the
what?
agency.
Though, I wish though that if they're gonna cast to the agency, that his son would have been alive today to handle that role, or even his daughter. But I know she's not into martial arts.
Yeah.
But imagine if Brandon wasn't gone and even having him as a mentor in this role in kung fu. Oh my God! I mean, because we don't have. I mean, damn, bro, we lost two legends very early in life.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely
Asian
true.
legends. I mean, this is coming from a Puerto Rican. I mean, but I felt their energy because they were different, just like I feel different, and they were going to do something so crazy. And what is it? Is it karma? Is it energy? Is it something that says no, not your time? Maybe 100 years from now, we bring you on and try it again. I don't know what it is, but it's so sad to see that we lose so many people so early on in life in this. You know what I mean?
Well, Bruce. Speaking, if you're talking about Bruce and maybe Brandon, I mean, Bruce Lee is the epitome of a life force, and sometimes those burn, quick.
Too quick.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, that's why I'm afraid to be so energetic. Sometimes I feel like, I'll make tone it down because I don't want my light to fucking burn fast.
Well, no, you could say like James Dean, for instance. James Dean.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking that too.
Another
three
future
movies.
legend.
3 movies.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, Jim Morrison. There's so many great guys.
Brandon
Quickly.
Brandon was shot with a gun that was supposed to have had a blank in it. It's very similar to what happened recently.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that's where the karma question comes.
How does that happen, though? This is supposed to be a fake gun. How is a real?
Well, no,
bullet
they're not fake.
Well, that's a chain of events. It's a chain of events, and when they come together,
it's an actual gun. They've just removed theoretically.
Yeah.
But how the fuck does a real bullet get in there?
So apparently, what happened with the most recent case is because the whole film was low budget, they didn't have enough money. So a lot of the hired hands they had were, shall we say, local.
My dude, you could buy blanks for less than $20 for a box.
No, hold on. So
I know this for a fact.
So what they were doing is during their off time, so between takes and while everyone else was in their vans, they were putting real bullets into the guns and taking target practice on tin cans and things to just let off steam because they're
let off steam. Go fucking play paintball.
Yeah, I'm not trying to excuse. I'm just telling you what.
He's just saying you've got B-level professionals having a good time, probably not getting paid much. They're just trying to fill up.
I get it, bro. But you know what? Go play paintball. Don't play with a real gun. Don't play real bullets.
But I got to tell you about the time I played paintball with Kevin Eastman and his Sherman tank. But that's for
my God. But hold on. I just want to say this. I'm a fucking weehead. I'm a weehead. I'll admit this publicly. I don't give a fuck. I like to smoke my weed. But if I'm having a real gun in my head, I don't think that I would forget to remove real bullets. Like, I don't want to hurt my family. Like, how could you forget that? How could you forget to remove a clip? How can you forget to cock
And,
the
I mean,
gun and
and
make
why do you fire at the cinematographer and the director?
Yes.
These are not your acting
Fire,
partner.
you
No,
know
they
what I
didn't
mean?
fire.
Fire
They
to an
didn't
empty
fire at them. They
space.
left a real bullet. There was a
Yeah,
real
but
bullet
the gun was pointed. The gun was pointed at this poor woman for what reason ever, and then
Didn't Alex
fired
Baldwin
twice.
say?
It's a
Didn't Alex
camera
Baldwin
scene.
say it was a misfire in the first place?
Yeah,
It's a
but
camera
thought,
scene.
Yeah, no, I
get
mean, it's, as you're right, Chris. You shouldn't even like just that mentality of
No
Yeah.
live ammunition on the set. Period.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no
Period.
discussion about it.
You've
There's no
got
discussion about
assholes
it.
and idiots being hired.
Exactly.
And it's
But
sad.
Brent was not killed by a live bullet. He was killed by a pop bullet, which it was weight wrong.
And this is
There was
Alec
too much
Baldwin's real
gunpowder.
exposure.
And
There was
Because
too much
Alex Baldwin,
gunpowder.
And people also forget that at very close range, even
Yeah, blanks are can kill you.
pure velocity.
I mean, there was a guy who shot himself in the head with a blank because he thought, oh, it's so harmless.
Yeah.
No, he killed
No.
himself with that.
I had a blank gun. I had a blank gun as a kid, and when I would shoot that playing around, I could see the force really coming. I could see how that could crack. Like if you put this to your head, even though it's
absolutely.
a blank, you're gonna crack your fucking skull where there are very
Definitely.
important veins.
Yeah.
People,
Exactly.
like,
I think
had
Alec
an-
Baldwin's
I had an
real
egg on
exposure
this.
here is that he was one of the producers of the movie.
Yeah,
so that
absolutely.
he was responsible for the funding.
oh,
the high-
absolutely.
Yeah.
The money.
Yeah.
When you're involved with the money, you're responsible for everything. Now,
So, on that note, how many out of June? How many out of 5? Chris?
I say 4 for me.
That's a tough one. I'd probably say 4 to 5, 4.5. I'm not sure. It's close to 4.5 for me.
4.5. Great. You, Greg?
Well, Dave, what did you give it?
I haven't given anything yet.
Yeah, we want to give you. Ah, there you go. Don't test us, bro.
Well, let me put it to you this way. I don't know if I can give it a grade. I will definitely say that I think it's excelled the original for the most part in its acting.
So
But
is
the
it a 3,
performances-
at least a 3.5 then?
I'd give it a
Greg.
3.5.
Okay.
Greg, you read the book. Is it close to the book? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I read
that's
the
a
book.
tough call now. Because what Lynch was trying to do in his movie, of course, was he was trying to extract some of those tropes that Herbert put in there that don't really translate well to film.
Joshua
And-
gives it a 4.5.
Oh yeah, right on.
That's close to me.
I'd give it a
I'd give it-
3.54.
Yeah, I'd give it a 3.5 to 4.
A 3.
Performances were good. The direction he knew. That's one of Lucas's failings. He does not know how to draw performances out of actors.
So we have a
That's
4.8 average between
Cool.
us. on
Okay,
that movie.
that's close.
Not bad.
That's very close. That's close to Spidey. We had 4.7 for Spidey. We have a 4.8 for Dune. I mean, that's close.
Which one are you going to see again, Chris?
But we
Dune.
didn't score. We didn't score Matrix when we spoke about it. What's your Matrix score? Because for me,
Whoa.
I could agree with you guys. You know, nothing beats the first one. The second one was okay. The third one kind of led us astray. And then we bring it to this. It brings it meta, which I kind of like because now they're kind of making fun of themselves.
But they only
So
did, they only
I
did
would
this
say
in the
it's
beginning.
straight up 3. It's a straight up 3 for me.
What's that? What, 4?
I would give it a
He
3.
said 3.
3.
He gave it a 3 out of 5 for
Out of
Matrix.
5.
Matrix.
So
Matrix 4.
it's better than half, but it's not the perfect film. Far from. And what about you,
Well,
Dave? Okay, Greg.
Go
Actually,
on,
no.
go on, Greg.
Greg, you
Go on.
give me a score.
I don't have a score. I just have a wise ass answer for you.
I love
I
it.
I think
I'm gonna score it based on your wise ass answer. Go
okay.
ahead.
I think instead of doing Matrix 4, regardless of whether you think Paul Bettany should have played John Constantine, I would like to see another Constantine movie, and I think that's what Keanu should put his energy into.
2.5.
Oh yes, I totally agree with that.
He is interested in.
Totally agree. He was interesting in Constantine.
I'll give
Good
that a
script,
2.5.
good direction, good performances.
He's
Miscast
interested in
lead.
reprising his role.
Keanu was fun to watch.
Great.
But it was Matt Ryan who played him, not Paul Bettany.
He is interested in reprising the role of Constantine.
That
Apparently,
would be cool.
Why
That would be
not,
cool.
yo? I mean, it was a good movie. People underrated because again, it was the pre-DCEU movie.
The
to be
reason,
honest.
the
interesting
reason
movie.
people slagged that off was because Keanu Reeves had black hair, not blonde, and he was American, not English.
And he was Keanu at that time. Today he's different.
Well, that's
But-
why
okay,
they
wait.
made the movie, because he was assigned to it. But I've always thought Paul Bettany should have played it.
Was he up for the role?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think Keanu's participation is what got that movie made.
Again,
Okay.
Paul Bettany, a great vision. Would he be that great character? Maybe.
I
can
like
see it.
I
He's a
absolutely like
character
Matt Ryan.
actor. He's a
Yeah,
character.
absolutely like Matt Ryan as a character.
No, I will tell you exactly. Yo. I mean, the dude from the CW playing, Constantine. I think he does a great job.
Yeah, Matt Ryan. He's very good at it.
Oh shit! Somebody said James McAvoy.
No,
No?
I don't know about that.
I don't see that.
I don't see that. Paul Bettany is a character actor,
Yeah.
It's interesting, though. It raises another question, because I'm always going to bring this back to creators' rights. Alan Moore created Constantine in the midst of Swamp Thing.
And
So
Swamp
he's-
Thing, what was it? When he used to look like, what was it, David Bowie? In a
Sting, no Sting.
Sting.
He looked like Sting.
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 He looked like Sting. He looked like Sting. I remember that.
Sting not doing his practices, man.
Could you imagine if Sting was still young enough to be able to be alive to see, yo, let me.
But I'm not sure. He would be a good casting for that role.
Greg,
It would be funny.
as you said, creators' rights, you only mentioned Alan Moore when saying John Constantine.
Bissett and
Just a
He said
snippet
that.
there, Dave. Keep going. Keep going,
Steve
Dave.
Bissett, John Tottleman, and don't
Well,
forget.
Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson.
No. I'm talking about Constantine.
Sorry.
Yeah, and Alan wouldn't have come up with the character if it wasn't for the input of Steve Bissett, who was into Sting. So it was that's why he wrote the character. And interesting enough, I think that
I
Just
give
as
Dave
a
a
quick-
5 out of 5.
just as a quick note, just as a quick
That's
note
absolutely
on
fine.
creators' rights, no one should ever say Alan Moore's Watchmen, Alan Moore's Marvel Man, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing without listing
That's right.
the artists.
That
Thank
is-
you very much.
Agreed.
Because one
we
of
totally
Alan's,
agree
one
with
of
you.
Alan's geniuses, of course, is working with an artist and finding their virtues. I mean, David
Yes.
Lloyd with V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the colorist.
Let me correct you
the
on
colorist.
V for Vendetta. V for Vendetta was David Lloyd's project, and he
With-
then no, he was going to do it by himself. He realized he needed a writer, and then brought Alan Moore in.
Ah,
So
Cool.
So that's
I wasn't sure the mechanics of that. Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And also,
Very cool.
in those
Chris
days,
Yeah, I hate this.
Alan
Yes.
Moore was much more of a collaborator than he is now. Today, it's
sure.
I'm going to write something. Here's your script. Here's the script.
Absolutely.
In those days, and going back to Marvel Man, a lot of the concepts behind the powers, the costumes,
agree.
the physics, and
I
everything
agree.
else came from Gary Leach, not Alan Moore. So,
Ooh,
and those
Gary
are,
Leach. Yes. Good shout.
which led
That's
to,
a big, good call out there, Dave.
Yes.
which
yes.
led to the creation of the Warp Smiths, because of that's where Gary took the conversation with
Gary
Alan.
Leach.
So
Absolutely.
you wouldn't have had the Warp Smiths, you wouldn't even have had the Quiz or any of that.
Wow.
So that was all from the collaboration.
And that's
So
the rationale for the revision of the mythos of Marvel Man with the wardrobe of etc.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's where it came
Beautiful.
from.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Right,
Now
love
that to me is comics. They say that actual comics is words and pictures, right? The frisson between words and pictures. Like, here you've got me with my name. Okay, put something narrative down here that recontextualizes the picture. That's comics. So again, the frisson between the writer and the artist, crucial.
Yes. Yes.
Definitely.
Agreed.
Definitely. We completely agree.
And I want to give
Which
a
is
shout
why I
out
think
to
John
Joshua.
Romita didn't last on Captain America. He wasn't suited for the character, and Kirby wanted to. I think also there was some suggestion that Kirby was trying to retain some control of that character, which actually was.
But I beg to differ. I like Romita's work in the 70s on the title when he did his Milt Kenneth homage on Captain America in the 70s. That was Romita was really nailing it there. I really like that. That was an interesting phase of.
Yeah. No, I mean,
okay, cool.
Like Spider-Man was just, I think if Stan and John Romita had fully embraced Peter Parker as Archie and Gwen Stacy and MJ as Betty and Veronica, I think that might have actually really embraced it. There was a certain amount of that. If they'd fully embraced it, that could have meant a whole nother direction for Spider-Man, and it could have actually meant bigger sales, and it could have meant bigger sales.
Absolutely.
A broader audience for sure.
I want to ask you guys something though, because we're talking here, we're trying to do a little 2021 review. Are you guys fans of horror movies?
I just wrote a horror book. What a question.
Well, that's a big strata of movies there, Al.
Well,
exactly.
With 2021 though, I think there was only one movie that kind of stuck out to me with originality. Original character, original story, and I can almost see an expansion of a universe here. And that's James Wan's Malignant. Have you guys not watched this film?
I heard about it.
Oh my
God! I heard about how it was received.
I've seen some of it. I've seen a couple of his previous horror films, and there was. I kind of tend to, from the trailer, I just thought I was going to be seeing.
No.
Watching something else.
It's very Matrixy in the third.
No, it's not. This is the whole thing. It's not. This is one of the most original horror movies to come out this year. Original character blew my mind. I'm like, fucking finally something a little bit different. I had my family like on edge, so they loved the movie, the tension behind it. Like, and James Wan is creating a universe similar to what M. Night Shyamalan is doing with what he did with the Unbreakable universe and all that shit. You know what I mean? I see James Wan building something here with this movie. And then if you think about what he's done in the past, I'm like, he's doing something here. If you guys have not watched Malignant, please make sure you watch this movie tonight. Because we need to talk about this. If you guys have not watched this, because for me, this is the horror movie of 2021. It was different. It was fun.
That's high praise.
It was scary. Bro, I love horror. I mean, they brought the most original character finally on screen that I've seen in years. And the way the concept and everything was just so different. It was fun to watch. And it had those jump scares, motherfuckers jumping, and then my wife and kid were doing this. So James Wan, thank you for doing something different, bringing some elements of comic book to movies, if you will, with a new character, and if we could create this whole new mytho. And I already see the expansion of the universe. Like James Wan, if you need a Puerto Rican on your team, I'm here. I see what you're doing, kiddo.
I'm gonna. Thanks for that suggestion. Now, Stephen King says that there's this crucial difference between horror and terror.
Yes.
And horror is that very visceral response, which is quite fascinating. Steve Bissett talked about this a lot. Remember that, Dave? He used to talk about this a lot in the context of Taboo. Terror, on the other hand, is this existential threat, not only to your life, but to your sense of your place in the world itself.
Your sense of being.
Yeah. So I'll check that out on that. I'm always that's where I draw my line between which horror movies I'm interested in seeing.
Oh no. You're gonna see this shit because it's gonna fuck you up. This is an OG character, the whole concept. I'm like, this is like a comic book movie on film, but it's not.
Well, it fucked me up.
And while we're on it, let me pimp my book again, The Neon Graveyard, on Amazon. Buy it today.
Yo, bro, I'm about to buy Chris.
I know, thank you. And Dave worked on the cover and he bought a copy. So this man helped greatly with the cover. Thank you.
Yep.
Actually, you know what, Chris? Now that I got some Christmas money, I'm gonna buy the book too. But
thank you.
Is there any
you don't
way?
Have it already?
But Al, remember to buy it via the Crusaders, Comic Crusaders link.
No. I need a signed copy though.
How am I supposed to do that?
How can I get a signed copy, Chris?
No, there'll be a print.
I'm going to send you my digital signature.
You know what I'm about to do?
Send it as a rub off. He can just rub it onto the cover.
Exactly,
Check this out.
exactly.
I figured it out. I'm gonna order
But
it. I'm
L,
gonna send
but
it to
L,
his
you,
house, and he's gonna sign it.
but
And then he's
L,
gonna pay to
but
send it
L.
to me because I paid to send it to him.
Exactly. But L, there's a big shout out on my author's page for Comic Crusaders, and there's a big shout out at the end of the book for Comic Crusaders. So you need to buy it actually, because I'm shouting out Comic Crusaders along the way.
You see this man, folks. This is why I love my brother here. He's talented. He's creative. He got a new book out, and then he's showing his love on top. Stop it, Chris. I don't want to cry because I've been an emotional mess this whole weekend.
Really
Hey,
nice
you helped me.
application.
You helped me along. Come on, bro.
I've been an emotional wreck this whole weekend because of the holidays. I saw Encanto, which is another movie that I think that maybe you white boys may not be into this. No insult, but it's like I finally see some traditional brown on film, and like an original story, and not for nothing. Halfway through the film, I got really emotional. I'm like, I realized, like, holy shit, I'm seeing pieces of myself in the film. So, folks, you know, if you're Latino, check out Encanto. It's a great holiday film, and you may find a piece of yourself in it. I mean, I'm part of the world, so I'm a human being. But just to see a little bit of my Latino.
Well, did you like?
It was just crazy. It's for me, it was wild, and it was a great movie. And again, it made me feel very emotional, because it's I haven't seen myself in that. And thank you, Joshua. It really was exactly good. It was.
See,
but let me just drop the cover.
My kids aren't. My kids are sort of in their late 20s now, so I don't get to take them well, they're in a different country now as well, but I don't get to take them to the movies anymore. So,
you know what? But you gotta have family reunion. You're like, motherfuckers, it's gonna be Daddy's weekend, and we're taking the goddamn movies, and we're gonna show you what's a good movie. Encanto is great. Spider-Man is great. I mean, anything you can show them, Dave, do it. Because again, I've been putting it on my daughter.
Oh no! I raised my kids on. We saw all the Star Wars together. We saw Matrix. Together. We saw Alien.
Don't let this gray hair fool you. I know we look young, but we have adult kids.
And I just dropped the cover I just dropped the cover in the CC tweet, so you can put it on the screen.
Let me just do it over here because my man Chris needs that love. Because he has an amazing book that I need. Again, I need this to get optioned really soon. So
yes,
hold on.
I'm working. The sequel is coming in summer.
So, bro, if you need a dead Puerto Rican on screen, I don't know if you have Latinos in it, but if you need a dead spick, I'm there for you.
But I have in the new book.
Control.
I have in the new book. A number of POC characters.
I love it. Let me ask you, since you're in Germany. And you in UK, Dave. I know Dave, you in the UK, you got a lot of diversity. You guys do, but you in Germany, is that something that you see? Is it a typical thing or no?
Yeah,
diversity. I mean, I'm in America, bro. I haven't traveled overseas, so you're talking to a dude that hasn't lived life yet.
Well,
it's part like you can go to certain places and it's just as diverse as anywhere you could possibly imagine, and then you go to other parts and it's just like everyone's purely white. It just depends on what part of the country you're in.
Okay.
Let me just say I have a black lawyer from London who happens to be a woman as the love interest for my heroine.
Wepa. And look at this beautiful cover, just like Dave's background. He did that on purpose, purple and white. He did it on purpose.
That's actually not Dave. That's Terry Osterhout who did the cover shot and
tapping the vein kind of effect there.
Tapping the vein, great book.
But Dave did everything else. Dave did the titles and everything else. The blood, the hammer blood. That's amazing. That's an amazing cover.
Isn't it beautiful? And I need a razor like that. Not because I'm Puerto Rican, folks. You need a razor.
We ordered it for this cover especially.
So wait a minute. I have a great idea for you, Chris. Why don't you get a couple of those razors, like 10 of them? Only 10 in the world, signed by Chris Buse.
No, that's a great idea. Thank you, Daniel. That's a great
I have
idea.
to say, Michael Allred with Madman was really good at coming up with
That's a good idea, actually.
merchandise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
bro.
very
Yo,
good.
All right, Chris, this is for you, man. Are you?
Hold on. My favorite
Uh-oh.
merchandise
I'm here,
was
I'm here.
Steve Bissett with the mescal worms in the lollies.
Oh yes.
And the shot
That's great.
glasses. And the shot
glasses.
glasses.
That's great.
But
That's
the mescal worms and the lollipops. That
Oh yeah, that was
That's great.
spectacular.
That's great.
the shot glasses.
That sounds
great.
brilliant. That sounds brilliant.
Bless you.
Bless you.
That's it.
I'm trying not to sneeze. I tried to hit the button, but it was too late.
Well,
No, come on now. It's live radio.
Yeah.
I hear you. So, Greg, what were you about to say, bro? What you got, bro? What are you gonna show off, man?
Well, I don't know if anybody out there watching this is wondering who the hell I am and why I'm here, but we'll get to that at some other point. This is for you, Chris. Are you ready?
Yeah, please go.
Can I get far?
Man, that is wow. That is great. That is fantastic.
Oh my
That is
God!
so
Look
super.
at that. How
Come on
gorgeous
now.
is
This
that?
is so super. That is so amazing. That is gorgeous.
Yo,
Fantastic.
You see this?
Wow, that's so wonderful.
The
Oh,
moss-
excellent,
Oh!
sir. Hey,
Let me see
hey,
that
super.
spine. Can I
I
see
wasn't
the
sure I
spine?
had it here, but when you started talking about it, I kept looking for it.
Let me see the spine.
Wow.
Oh,
Amazing.
beautiful, bro. I'm
So
all about the
super.
spine because that's what people see on the shelf. That's gorgeous, bro.
Let's see if I can angle it in there.
Please
There
tell
You
me,
need
where
to
did you get
you need to post some of those pictures on Twitter. You will have a lot of new followers.
Okay.
Are you on Twitter, by the way?
Yo, Joshua is
You know-
shocked. He goes like amazing, bro. That's Joshua from Endless Mile, if I'm correct.
I was on Twitter.
That's big
We gotta
Josh.
get
You
back
guys
on.
might not know this, but my Facebook page, I used to have about 2,500 friends on Facebook. In all of my wanderings, my Facebook page got hacked during the election.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
I was posting little flyers about stuff, and somebody infiltrated my Facebook page and started posting objectionable material. And they shut my whole page down. So if you want to reach out to me, that's a good place to reach out to me now that they finally cleared my page and allowed me to come back.
No porn, guys. No porn, please.
It was political stuff.
No political or porn. You know what? They're both
Political
so
porn. Political porn.
Yeah.
I like to make flyers of things, and one of the things I was making flyers about was the situation we've been in for the last
2 years.
40 years.
That's what it feels like. My brother.
Well, when you think about it,
40 years
it goes
ago.
back to how Woodrow Wilson got elected because of Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh, I love this. I love this story. I love that story.
So you know what? I'm gonna go to the restroom real quick, and I want Dr. G to to entice Chris B on this story. Go ahead.
Which story is that?
On that whole political joint. I mean, we're not political, but it's
You
funny.
mean Teddy Roosevelt making the
Yes,
political?
do it.
I don't know if this is appropriate to our.
Is that Teddy Roosevelt?
Well, Teddy Roosevelt made the politically injudicious move of saying that he would not run again for president, and then after he took over for McKinley, and then since he had made that promise and couldn't break that promise, he chose. It was Howard Taft, I think, to succeed him. Well, Howard Taft's administration, by Teddy Roosevelt's account, was a disaster, and so he started really the first viable third party in American politics, the Bull Moose Party, the Progressive Party, split the ticket through the election to the Democrat Wilson. I'm not proselytizing for any party here, but through the election to Woodrow Wilson, who said he would keep us out of World War I, and then, of course, famously took us into World War I. And there's a lot of people in the United States. I'm not necessarily one who agrees with that, but they say that the United States took a very critical turn in its history from an isolationist nation to an interventionist nation after the First World War.
I was just on this topic. I was just looking at the at the Wikipedia page for Douglas Sirk, the movie director, and I had in my head that he was German. Actually, he's a German guy. I always thought he was Scandinavian for some reason. And then I looked at his birthday, and it said born in the Empire of Germany. And I said, wow, yeah, sure. In the 1900s, he still had an empire. He was born in the Empire of Germany. I thought, wow, it's amazing. He ended up in Hollywood being one of the best melodramatic directors. It's so crazy.
Somewhere around here, I have an old dictionary that was actually produced in 1939, but it wasn't released until 1944 because of the war. But when you open it, it's got to be about this thick, this big. But when you open it, the reason I bought it at this old store is because it has all of these color plates, including all the flags of the world. And the flag for Germany is the Third Reich flag, and it has one page that has every flag of the Commonwealth of British Nations. It's amazing. It goes on and on and on. It's really spectacular. I'll have to bring it and show you guys sometime.
And if it was that thick, that means that people actually used a lot of words back then, and nowadays it's just fucking emojis.
It was a research dictionary, you know, those dictionaries where you could go look something up and it would actually give you almost an encyclopedic entry on it. Not an article, but a large entry.
Oh my God! You're reading too much, and kids would give up within 5 minutes. I get it. And look at Joshua, bro. Endless Mouse Studios rules. They're gonna be Academy Award winners real soon. So yeah, Josh is just
Endless Mile, folks. Endless Mile.
Yeah, I love them, bro. I spoke to them. You know, they made some great films that I saw on Geek Fest Film Fest. So, I mean, am I gonna see you in the movie, G? Am I gonna see Dave Elliott in a movie? Am I gonna see Chris B in a movie? What's going on here?
No, I'm not going to be in a movie. I'm going to sell my movie rights.
Oh, you're gonna sell the movie rights, but you're not gonna be Puff Daddy. You won't be in the movie.
No.
Yeah, but you'll be in.
I'm gonna plug one of my books, guys. Since we're plugging books here, and because Chris mentioned Chris mentioned great German directors, you guys can reach out to me in various ways. I see that my email and stuff isn't up there, but I was really struck by the movie Metropolis, of course.
Classic.
Fritz Lang.
And Theda Harbo. And I was watching it in a somewhat altered state, somewhere between Mescal and it struck me that not only, of course, was it an incredibly uncanny diagnosis of where the world was headed at that pre-war place, or that between-war place, but it also, the imagery of it is absolutely useful for what we're dealing with today in terms of depredations on the planet. So I wrote this kind of tribute to it. You'll notice it's not called Metropolis, it's called Anthropolis. Now I just want to show you the title page for those of you who are interested.
Very nice. Oh, that looks very cool. That looks very cool.
Ooh,
yeah, like the skyscraper. Very cool.
So the idea there is that, you know, as prescient as the movie was in its day, the silent movie from the 24, 29, the imagery of it, actually now from an archetypal standpoint, speaks to us more strongly than ever, because it literally shows the mechanisms of a capitalist structure using the tropes of democracy, the natural world, against the natural world and against democracy for the sake of controlling all resources. So that's why the title of this is called "Who Mediates the Head and Hands?" The head being.
And you have this amazing story in Fritz Lang, who had this huge career in Germany as one of the premier directors. And even though he was Jewish, Goebbels came to him and said, well, basically you can be the head of the German film department, and that was the moment he got on a train to Paris and then to America. But basically,
left it in the hands of Leni Riefenstahl.
It's so amazing that he went up doing a movie together with Bertolt Brecht. Bertolt Brecht wanted to do this art movie, and Fritz Lang said, no, we're in America now, Bert. We're making commercial movies now. And so I absolutely love the story. It's I'm in a different country, we make different movies here, making commercial movies. We don't make art movies anymore. I love this. It's kind of cool.
Well, we owe Fritz Lang many, 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 many thanks, but part of that is for bringing Marlene Dietrich with him, I guess.
Yeah, I think it is. Well, he was a cool guy. He was an interesting guy.
Love it. So, folks, last thing, because, we're going here, hanging out for 2 hours. I know people want to eat.
Yeah. Nailed it, Joshua.
Get them on them Christmas crossovers, Christmas leftovers, if you will. Love the Tower of Babel imagery, absolutely. Yep. That's the Dr. G does. All right, Josh, you should know him.
Here we go.
How is that for an image of absolute irony? Do you guys know the book The Never-Ending Story by Mike Linde? He wrote a really great book also that's not as well known called Momo. And he's talking about how, for the sake of preserving the world, we've had to reconstruct an almost mirror image of it that conforms to our agenda for the world. Fantastic.
It's like The Matrix, but it was written in the 1980s by a German guy. We even made a movie out of it.
Why are you Germans so meta, Chris? Jesus Christ, you guys are just meta. What's going on?
No, we're very dark.
Well, you see, it has to do with being landlocked between two. It has to do with about being landlocked without access to hot water ports or warm water ports between two traditional enemies and looking for space.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but we're also very close to. We're also very close. We are very close to Holland, and we get that sweet deal, no? You know.
Oh, is that what it is? Is that what that's about?
Wait. Did you say sweet deal or sweet deal? Oh my God.
Sweet.
Ouch.
Reefer madness. Okay, so checking out.
Well, hold on. One thing. So, I didn't give a score. Did everyone give a score for Matrix?
Wait. Chris didn't get, neither did you. I gave it.
Okay.
Go ahead. I didn't.
Chris?
I didn't score.
I give it a 1. I give it a 1.
Oh my God.
Wow.
GB. Go ahead, Dave.
And I gave it 4. I'll give it 4.
4. Okay.
Whoa.
And what about you, GB?
You guys got to convince me to see it because it's not my. It's like someone said to me the other day. So, what do you like more, Harry Potter or Star Wars? I said, frankly, I'm kind of finished with the whole thing, really.
Gotcha. I mean, Matrix, I give it a 3. It didn't give me the energy of the last ones.
I wasn't expecting that though. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
I wasn't expecting that.
I did want some energy though. You're talking to Almega, I always want energy. And I expected a little bit more deep dive. I enjoyed the meta, but it was just too much meta conversation. That and I wanted to see come on, man. I'm an old school dude, so I also want to see some hands-on action and violence. I want to see people motherfucking die. That's what I am when I'm a New Yorker.
Since we're talking about sequels, they did a Blade Runner 2000 or whatever the heck it was called.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
I hated it.
The pacing was terrible.
Absolutely
Ryan Gosling is an actor of talent, not well utilized. But I thought it was fascinating that what they were attempting to do, at any rate, not well, they were attempting to deal with the implications of the premise. All the way up to it being not telegraphed, but pretty obvious that Ryan Gosling kind of thought or hoped that he might have been a clone of Deckard or something, or the real true son of Deckard.
Exactly.
Dealing with the OG somehow.
Playing with the implications of the premise.
Yeah, there was also Denis Villeneuve. Or Villeneuve. Is it Villeneuve or is it Villeneuve? I can't remember right now. But Denis, the same director who did Dune.
That's what I like about it. I like the fact that the moment
good direction.
The moment they started hinting it, I guessed that he wasn't, but I wanted to see where they were going with it. And the fact that he was like, again, we kind of didn't get it play out, but the fact that he was deliberately given the seeds of that information to think he would is fucked up.
To motivate him. Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it
goes all the way back to the original Alien, when they have that.
It was not a bad movie. The pacing was way too slow for my taste. I mean, they were going for the original pacing of the 80s, which is also very deliberate, but it's not how we watch movies anymore. And it felt too slow.
But I think they wanted it to be a pair. They wanted it to be a pair. But I mean, it
can't be a pair when you wait that much.
So
when you wait that long, though, to do something, more of a sequel. I mean, you wait that kind of space. The pacing is just not going to be the same because you don't have people from that era that kind of feel that energy.
I mean, you can go slow.
Energy.
You can go slow pace. I loved his movie Arrival. I really loved his movie Arrival. That was a very interesting movie. The idea behind it is very good.
I just don't think that modern creators could understand the pace of older creators because everything is so rushed based on how media is sold nowadays. You know what I mean?
Well, so
it's a different style of storytelling. Yeah, it's a different style of storytelling.
Yeah, they're not going to do it. I mean, again, this is why I respect my boy Lance from Comic Crusaders. He still works on film, hates digital, and he gives his movies such an original look. You know, are we going to get that again? Maybe there's a few people out there that do respect the old style, but we're going to keep getting this digital style that is just too cartoonish for me. So this is why I'm very spacing between movies I enjoy nowadays. You know what I mean? I enjoy the Marvel stuff and comic book stuff because, hey, I didn't get this when I was a kid. But when I'm talking about horror movies or action movies or whatever, you know, Malignant stood out to me. Yeah, No Time to Die did stand out to me. You know, absolutely. Because again, you know, here we get in some OG feeling James Bond stories with that movie.
See, Marvel Studios have actually they've given me everything I need as far as that sort of material is concerned. So I don't.
But they're doing a good job. But look at Spider-Man again.
I don't need to read the comics anymore.
I hate the fact though of the words fan service. Yeah, we're fans.
That takes us full circle because we're not trying to sell comic books at this point. We're selling merchandising and we're selling the most accessible, desirable form of storytelling, which is movies.
Yeah. I really
for that audience. For that audience.
Hawkeye. I really like the Hawkeye series because
it was fantastic.
Well, the reason
one of my favorites this year.
It was the first thing that Marvel have done where there wasn't a ton of stuff. I knew it was heavily based on some of the more recent Hawkeye comics, which I'd never read.
But you didn't need to though. They did a good job of telling the story.
But that made it nice for me in that it's all fresh.
Transmedia. Joshua put it, transmedia. Just knowing how to tell a story regardless of the media that's being used.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I don't need to. But there's so much Marvel stuff now. I don't need to read the comics anymore. I don't need to pick up a new Marvel comic.
I would still want to read the comic because I'm still this old school dude in my mentality where I need to compare. Like, how good is the OG story? I grew up in a different era, so it's like, you know, I've seen movies that I always compare to books. So it's like I'm always going to try to say, okay, so I need to read the original book to compare it to the show or the movie or whatever. Oh wow, look at what this guy's pulling out here.
Or for nostalgia. I thought this was a comics podcast. Or for nostalgia.
I'm about to faint because if I ever go to Dr.
Look at this.
Oh my God.
I love those. I love those.
Now, why am I showing you this one? Because as we saw in some of those Marvel series, Kang has been raised. He's coming. Kang the Conqueror is on his way. I don't remember. I'm trying to think of where did they tease Kang? What was it at the end of?
It was Scarlet. It was the WandaVision.
Yeah, WandaVision.
WandaVision, yeah, it was. Which had a very strange beginning. I saw what they were doing. I thought that they were playing with those tropes a little too preciously. But once it moved on, brilliant way, and Loki, brilliant way to bring in the multiverse.
Yeah, I love those issues. Those Don Heck issues are great. I mean, I love those.
How many of these do you got, Dr. G? Because you're fucking blowing my mind. Like, I need these in my life.
Yeah, they're all reprinted. They're all reprinted. They're all available.
I don't want reprints. I want what he got.
Oh, I got to tell you, speaking of reprints, I'm glad you mentioned that, Al. Sorry, you guys. Because I showed you this Captain America book, right? Well, check this out. This is Marvel double feature. So it's the story with the Super Adaptoid. They took out a page in this reprint. In this reprint, there's a missing page from Tales of Suspense. And of course, they're slightly different colored. They're different pagination. It's very interesting to see.
They also adapted it from the references, because I remember when they did this Spidey reprint, they changed the cultural references, so the audience in the 80s would get those, which is quite interesting.
So one of my issues with DC, my friend Dale Crane was the art director there, and what they would do is they would take these old this old these old films. My library's out of the world. Anybody interested in having some of this stuff, give me a shout.
Yeah, I want you.
But Dale Crane would said to me, they're taking the black. They have the black plates from the original printing, but they're in states of decay. So you have someone coming in, and he's not inking it like Kirby might have worked on his stuff, or they're just trying to get it over with. So you have these very bad re-inked original, and then you have this new coloring. So some of these reprinted editions, you're like, what's the point? I mean, it gives you the story in a way, but it doesn't give you an experience of the original artwork, which to me is part of the charm, frankly.
Absolutely.
See,
I know we've gone light years from that now in terms of what we're doing graphically, but this is our history. This is where we come from.
Absolutely. Love the old school books.
Well, when Marvel were in file for bankruptcy, one of the things that they couldn't afford to do anymore was to pay the rental on the warehouse where they stored all their films and plates.
Oh, wow.
And they had nowhere to put it. So basically all of their films were destroyed.
What? I would have paid the rent on that motherfucker. Why don't you call Al?
Yep.
Jeez, I would have rented it and then owned it, and I'd be like, Dave, what can we do with this?
Is a deep warehouse, Al.
It's all right, bro. I had a basement in Brooklyn. I could probably fill it up.
But speaking of this in terms of the history, in the 70s when the comics were really dying off, I mean, there was so much competition at that point. So you have someone like DC and someone like Marvel go, what are we going to do with this? So they found out that if they made these 100-page super spectaculars, they could hire current creators to do an 12-page story, and then they just do reprints of all the original Golden Age stuff. And again, that's why I brought this, because this is how I found out about these guys. I was reading Justice League as a kid, and it's somewhere in the middle of one of those giant super spectaculars. Murphy Anderson, shout out to the artist. Murphy Anderson's like, oh yeah, well there was actually something that preceded the Justice League. Now that's a segue to today. Nobody does the continuity. You remember DC threw the multiverse away. They threw it away. It was a brilliant science fiction concept to bring their 70 years of history forward, and they just tossed it. And Marvel owns it. Marvel owns the multiverse now.
Now they know how to use it. Yeah, Marvel was bold enough.
DC do have a multiverse again. DC do have a multiverse.
They have it. They have it, but they didn't.
But they're not doing anything with it.
They went
Infinite Crisis. Infinite Crisis was a genius way to update it, and then they dropped it.
Exactly. They went to that. They went to an Earth Prime. Now they eliminated their own multiverse, incorporating everybody into one world. And then all of a sudden, years later, Infinite Crisis comes out. Oh, okay, now let's bring it back. But too late. Marvel already owned that shit in a way that you guys can't do it anymore. You guys
when Disney merges with Warner,
right? Oh, if that happens, then we might get the fun stuff. I mean, not if, but when. It's all a matter of when. It's all a matter of when.
If Disney take over Warner Bros. But again, the problem is this. Kevin Feige is already stretched as it is. He's doing he's overseeing all the films, the TV shows.
That's why he has no hair, poor guy.
He also oversees the publishing as well. He has final say on the publishing.
Exactly.
He's also now involved in Star Wars. So
for now, because Dark Horse is going to do it better, like they always do.
No. He oversees.
No, it's the movies.
Dave, does Feige have a protege?
Not that he's letting anyone know.
Well, we got resumes here, Kevin.
But the thing is, you see, again, it's like even if they did, like they don't forget, Disney didn't have Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige was running Marvel Studios under Paramount, and then when Disney bought it, they looked at it and were like, "This guy's got it. Okay, we'll leave him in charge.
Let him do his thing."
If you took over Warner Brothers, there's no one in charge that you'd want to give it to.
That's not necessarily a bad thing.
Oh no, I know, but it's kind of been a mess.
It's a complete mess. I was talking to Al about this when we first met. I was like, somebody in the Warner's culture has hired a poison pill, because there's no way this is just pure incompetence, is it?
Nah, it can't
No.
be.
I mean,
Somebody's
You
doing
have-
some industrial sabotage. I mean, this
or you
uncanny.
have-
It's uncanny how bad they're doing.
For me, it is that you have a lot of non-fans that are involved in the project that are coming to it in a very creative perspective, but not on the creative perspective that we anticipate, because they're not fans of the culture or the fandom of itself. So they come from this very outside view of how, okay, well, I'm gonna be a movie traditionalist.
But you don't need to be a fan of
Not a
comics to make a
fan,
good
but
comic book
I
movie.
think you need to understand the characters. You need to understand something about them, so that way you could bring a sense of genuineness into it.
I think it's a
again,
culture issue. I think it's a culture issue. There's so much money at stake that they don't want to mess with Superman, and precisely what they need to do, as they found
mess
out in
with
the '80s,
Superman.
is mess with Superman.
Not just that.
Or-
Look,
Yeah.
wait, but they've messed with the Fantastic Four and fucked it up royally. We get Galactus as a cloud. We get a shitty version-
Marvel has never really done the Fantastic Four movie they wanted to.
Yeah, I understand. This is what I hope now, that we're gonna get the proper, because those are perfect examples of properties being just like miscued, misinterpreted. Like Galactus is the cloud. I mean, I like the concept idea, maybe, but
that was budget.
nah,
That
bro.
was budget.
This is not the Galactus we know. If you're gonna bring Galactus to screen, you need to bring us Galactus as we know him.
It reminds me of what Harlan Ellison said when he was working on the first Star Trek movie. He was a good friend at that point of Gary Groth, and so I got to hear this story. And he said we would go into the studio and we'd sit around the desk, and they'd say, "We want something really big. This is the first Star Trek movie. Everything's banking on it. We want to make this as big as we can." So they're going through all these ideas. Nope, that's not big enough. Come on, guys, something really big. Harlan Ellison said that finally, out of pure frustration, he stood there and said, "The Enterprise reaches the end of the universe and pierces the veil of creation and sees the preternatural face of God."
Oh.
And the guy and the studio executive went, "No, something really big."
Like, you breaking the goddamn source war.
I love this.
Crazy?
I love this. This is great.
It's
So
interesting.
you
as
sort of
well,
have to have. I'm sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, see, there's certain films that have at certain times been made, and because they got made in a certain way, because they'd reached a certain point where if we don't start filming now, we can't make this film. Because they've got budgets to think of, we're ready to shoot. We've been building some sets. We designed the new Enterprise. We still don't have a script yet, which is why with Star Trek: The Motion Picture, they were forced to actually go back to the aborted new season that was never made, and they took a couple of scripts and merged them together for the motion picture. So that's what they did with Star Trek. You look at Tomb Raider, when they made the first Tomb Raider movie, they were literally writing that movie as they were shooting it, because they had the money for it, they had Angelina Jolie for it, and they had to start shooting on a certain day. Otherwise, it was all gone.
But you know what? Even the new movie was still trash. So.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying.
And they had time on the new movie.
Oh yeah.
Well, it goes to speak to the idea that you have to have a sense of proportion, and you also have to have a sense of scope. And I think that's what Feige has brought to Marvel Studios.
Definitely.
He's up. Yeah, I think Kevin Feige approaches this shit like an architect. You know what I mean? Find points, just build something that's gonna last with real narrative, story, and each next one is gonna build upon the last one a little bit.
Yeah.
So to kind of elaborate Dave's idea, what about X-Men?
Yeah.
That's got decades of storytelling, a huge fan base.
But they haven't done it right. I think the only ones that have gotten the X-Men right is the First Class series.
I really like that.
In my opinion. In my opinion, the First Class series has done X-Men justice. And anything outside of First Class has not.
Yeah,
that's
the best. That's easily the best of the movies.
Yeah, HBO Max
Exactly.
is doing an X-Men cartoon now. Let's see if they could bring back the awesomeness of that 97 cartoon, and hopefully people can learn from this goddamn cartoon and bring us a more fun X-Men movie.
Well, how about Into the
franchise?
When it comes to cartoons, I think Into the Spider-Verse was 5 kinds of a kick.
And that was one of a rare kind of film, because again, here goes Miles Morales, a biracial character for those that want to keep focusing on black. He's not just black. He's Puerto Rican. He's Latino. And this film had him speak like a Puerto Rican. I'm like, holy shit, this is the first time I hear my verbiage on TV, because again, when they do a Latino character on film, they're always Mexican or South American. Puerto Ricans are from the Caribbean. We don't speak that way. And when I heard this movie and how he spoke Spanish, I'm like, holy shit, yo, they captured me finally. I got emotional, just like I did with Encanto over the weekend. I saw a piece of myself in movies finally, in a cartoon. I broke down like a little bitch, to be honest, because I'm like, oh my God, I see a piece of myself.
I almost thought they were going to have Miles Morales in No Way Home.
Yeah, I thought so too. Missed opportunity.
They do a shout out to him.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx, I love that. When he's speaking to Andrew, he's like, yo, bro, you from Queens and this and that. I thought you were black. There's got to be a black Spider-Man somewhere in the universe.
Yeah.
And then Andrew says, I'm pretty sure there is. I mean,
so here's my question for the guys here. Fan service. Was the new Spidey movie too much fan service? Just the right amount?
Just the right amount, and I fucking loved it. I don't give a shit what anybody else. You know what? I'm a fan. I go to movies as a fan. So if you service me on this level, thank you. I loved it. My wifey didn't watch it yet. I can't wait till she watches it because she's a big Toby fan. And when I said, baby, even Toby's in this motherfucker. She's like, okay, now I gotta see, because that was my Spider. Each one of us have our Spider-Man. Dave had the 70s Spider-Man that didn't talk. He was creeping around. I had my.
What is it?
The Japanese Spider-Man for me.
Hamilton. What is his name?
Peter name Hammond, right? Hammond.
Peter Hammond. He was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yo, why wasn't he in this new Spider-Man movie? I would have loved
to see him. Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
That would have been cool. On the rooftop going like
because Dave Sim is still contesting the whole Peter Porker thing.
Yeah, bro.
Okay. Shall we wrap it up?
Yeah, definitely wrap it up. But I want to say, if you see that Peter Parker to today's, Spider-Man, please be happy. Please. We've grown a lot since then. But bro, this has been a great show with Dr. GB right here and my boy Dave and Chris. We've been on hiatus for a couple of weeks just because, again, life and Dave is busy. Chris is, pimping his book, and Dr. G was just getting ready for us. He also pimps his own stuff. So before we go, Dr. G, where can they follow you today if they wanted to follow you?
I guess the fastest way would go to my Facebook page, which is my name, Gregory Baisden. But you can also email me. I gave you my email address, and people are actually welcome to reach out to me directly. And that is also my name, gregory.s.baisden@gmail. And I'm happy to talk to, I guess I'll do another shameless plug.
More plugging. And look,
this is the best I could do
I love it.
A few years ago. But one of the books I'm working on, which is why I have shelves of Captain Marvel stuff, it's called A Tale of Three Marvels.
Oh, I love
and this is just me messing around. It's really not the final cover. It's just an idea. But the notion, how many Captain Marvels?
You're getting great shout out here from Joshua. He says, please bring Dr. G back. Joshua, yeah, Dr. G is a new member. He is a part of the show now. He will be back every time now.
Yeah, you're stuck with him whether you like him or not.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to hear comic book geekiness to the fullest, whether you like it or not. I love it.
Well, a little bit of Dr. G goes a long way.
Yeah, bro. Epa. Is that what she said? Hey, there we go. Ooh. You dirty boy, you. But that was an awesome plug, though. That cover is gorgeous. Is this coming out anytime soon? What's going on here?
I'm working on it. I'm thinking of self-publishing it, which is one of the reasons I mentioned if anybody has any ideas. But the fascinating
ASAP Comics, Paul.
One of the fascinating things to me, which we talked about, Al, is between Marvel, as I call him,
Yes.
and Marvel or Shazam. You know, there's a little interstitial space there where the rights were up in the air, and Carl Burgos being pissed off about Human Torch being stolen from him actually participated in Split Zam Captain Marvel. Pretty interesting stuff. So, you know, this book has a lot of stuff in it. I talk about Super Folks by Robert Mayer as one of the beginnings of this whole notion of meta-fictional superheroes, the way Alan Moore changed Swamp Thing, the way he changed Marvel Man. But I take it from the standpoint of what an interest. I'm an archetypal psychologist. So what a fascinating idea to have this character who is capable of transposing himself. Then Alan Moore takes that and able to transpose himself between a wardrobe of characters. That is the history of Captain Marvel, because he has appeared in so many different guises, from Billy Batson to Marvel Man to Split Zam to Marvel to Genisville to Ms. Marvel. I mean, he's got breasts now, folks.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? So again, this speaks to the issue of what is this all about? Is it art? Is it marketing? Is it pure capitalist cynicism? Well, that's the beauty of it, as I guess Will Eisner would say. The possibilities of a genuine artistic endeavor is there. Sometimes we have to go to the independents who aren't being told what to do to find it, but it's there in the medium. It's there in the form. So I use Captain Marvel as the means of talking about all of that, and particularly creators' rights. You know, who owns Captain Marvel?
We all do. We all do. I'm pretty sure Dave Elliott can make a great motherfucking Captain Marvel story right now on his label. Let's do it.
Well, it's funny. It's like I did a little bit of it with I did a book for Image called Sharky, and it was
Sharky.
Basically, it was the same idea. You know,
he's turned into a shark.
A school kid becomes basically this sort of leather-clad, gothic sort of, you know, 6'6", 7 foot
goth
superhero.
Yeah, bro, I could see Dave dressed in goth right now too, bro.
Well, you know, Firestorm. Firestorm is a refiguration of Captain Marvel.
I love
what's his name. What was the Image character?
What Image character?
Supreme, I think. Yeah, evokes Captain Marvel.
Well, Supreme was more. I think that was more the Superman.
Well, it was very Superman on a fucked up level, bro.
Yeah, just as Majestic.
That was Superman on crack. Yeah. Majestic was not as messed up though. Wildstorm character with it right there with Majestic. I like Majestic because Supreme was just like, yo, this is a brutal ass Superman. Homie don't give a shit. Damn.
Well, how about The Boys? Have you guys been watching The Boys?
I love The Boys. I mean, I spoke to the cast in San Diego before the first season came on. I can't wait to see what's next. This is a fantastic show. It's sick. It's sick. I love it.
It's well done. It's well done.
It's pretty shocking. Pretty shocking.
Again, if we were to think of superheroes in the real world, I mean, they're not gonna be perfect like in comic books. I think they will be as fucked up as in The Boys. So,
well, then there's the whole discussion of superheroes being a symptom of late form American imperialist capitalism, and express just.
Oh my
That's
God.
That's a whole different discussion. Different discussion. We save that for another time.
I need to make a whole new podcast. Like, all right, let's talk about the politics of the fucking world so that way you can hate us even more now.
So we skipped on Bonds, didn't we? And I know
which one?
Oh yeah,
James Bond.
Yeah.
We didn't.
So the score you mean?
Oh yeah.
Well, no, we didn't really get a chance. We didn't talk about it that much.
Why?
We can score. Okay. We can just go to score it if you like. But
we'll start with Daniel Craig as a reimagining of the character, Dave.
Oh no, I mean, I thought, you know, again, the first time I saw him, I had slight hesitancy, but Casino Royale was easily the best.
Absolutely
film. Amazing movie.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it never quite equaled that promise.
I think the last one did it for me, and I put the last one very close to Casino Royale in my book.
Ooh.
Oh, by all means.
So
By all means, put it in
Casino
your book.
Royale is still above this one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I think you'd be hard pressed to
yeah. And we can't.
just try saying anything else.
Also as Eva Green, she's one of the best living actresses at the moment.
So
I'm sorry, who was that, Chris?
Eva Green.
Oh.
Eva Green.
So
Yeah.
would Josh say that this has been the best iteration of Bond yet, or no?
Oh, that's very tough.
Cultural context has to play.
Exactly. It's very good point. I would probably put him very close to Sean Connery because I liked Timothy Dalton also as Bond.
Really?
And the Craig Bond is very close to the Timothy Dalton Bond I really liked.
See, I grew up with Roger Moore, so that's my Bond. And I know you hate
this
him.
guy.
You
I
hate
hate this
Roger,
guy.
but I love Roger.
No.
I love Roger.
No, it's horrible.
I think you have to understand Roger Moore is basically trying to continue playing the Saint.
The Saints. Yeah.
I don't think he really got Bond as a character.
I always
But it was fun.
saw Roger Moore's James Bond more of the character he played with Tony Curtis in The Persuaders.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Oh
Yeah.
wow!
Far out there.
He wasn't
Yeah.
playing James
Yeah.
Bond by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
Came closest though.
Yeah.
I think what I liked about Daniel Craig's James Bond basically is there's no more ambivalence. You know, Timothy Dalton was a great actor, good
He
Bond,
was.
but there's ambivalence culturally at the time. There's ambivalence about the character. Daniel Craig is a straight up operative for whatever forces he's serving, and there's no ambiguity about it. There's no ambiguity about it.
You do see that change in his character from being. You do see that throughout the movies. That's the one progression you do see, which is Daniel Craig going
Absolutely.
from, I will do exactly what M tells me to, I see it being gray here.
I should say ambivalence, not ambiguous. Yeah.
And again, I like, see, Timothy Dalton's James Bond was almost like Bond who's developed mental health issues. Like he's clearly conflicted playing in the role he's in. And I think this was kind of why it was quite a brave step. I don't think that the films quite lived up to the idea of that, but it was nice to see someone who was my best friend is just like his wife's been killed. He's fucking had one of his legs eaten by a shark just for the fucking hell of it. I want revenge. But he's been told not to go for it. It's like, no, you can't do that. It's just, having someone, because once you've made that switch, once you can keep doing things as you're told, but the moment you hit that thing that where you don't agree with the orders
You
you're
want
getting,
to do what
that changes your
against-
character.
yeah.
That changes who you
And
are.
once you have the skills,
Dave
once you have the skills,
As a
to do
fellow
it.
editor, right? When I used to be submissions editor for several different companies, wanting to see a script that dealt with the implications of its premise,
Yeah.
followed through. Now, in the Daniel Craig Bond, they make a play of his ambivalence. They make a play of his arc, if you will, his trajectory from
Oh, yeah.
you've bred me, you've hired me, you've authorized me, I'm going to follow my rules, to wait, this is way more complicated, as opposed to, I think, Timothy Dalton, he came into it with that ambivalence, and they didn't deal with the implications of it. You didn't get to see him really kind of struggle with what he was going to do with it. I mean, in the first movie, Casino Royale, he's ready to walk away from it all.
Yes, he is.
See, Daniel Craig's James Bond, we saw him getting he's more confident in the role, and he gets that point where he suddenly realizes hey, I'm I don't need to take orders. I can.
I'm
do
the
this if I
illest
want
dude
to.
in this crib right
But
now.
then he gets to a certain
outfit.
stage where he realizes the world stage he's now stepping onto, he doesn't understand anymore. He doesn't get it, and he realizes that I don't get all of this, and he gets to that point where he almost wants to pull away.
And that's the real policies of the world. You want to do good, but
Yeah.
the
Two
messages are so
correspondences.
confusing.
Two correspondences. Are they called Spectre in the Bond? And they're called Hydra in the Marvel Universe. So
Right.
good guys, bad guys, motives, who's in charge, who's serving what purpose. Like that great scene in the last Avengers movie where they replayed the scene and Captain America got to go, "Hail Hydra." I mean,
yeah.
talk about messing with the mirrors, the hall of mirrors of what's actually going on.
But that's the beauty with the Marvel Universe, because now it's so big and we've got so many movies, so many TV shows. You can do stuff like that people go, "Oh, I love it." But if you've only got you've had 2 or 3 movies, it doesn't. You can still get a little bit of that, but it tends not to resonate so well as that did.
Yeah, but let's not talk about Dawn of Justice. Oof.
Oh
No, that's right. But that's also what makes what I really liked and what also gave me a lot of confidence as a writer especially about the new Bond movie is we just go in. There is no explanation about the characters. There is no explanation who is this woman, why is he with this woman. It's just the continuation of the story.
Get it done.
That's why I like the new Craig series. It's we have this character. It's not episode. He changes. He has a girlfriend now. Yep. Can he trust her? And we don't have to have the origin story of that relationship again. We don't need to explain it.
Talking about Superman again. Always wanting to tell.
Yes.
And I was very hesitant with my second book. I was basically, you can forbid a short book. My first book is 900 pages. My second book is 900 pages. And I could have gone and said, okay, right, first of all, standalone books. And I also could have gone with the second book and say, well, basically, I need to reintroduce those characters. I have no time for that. Read the first book. You know who these characters are. Reintroduce. It just continues.
It's the bane of any continuity epic mythos.
Exactly. It continues.
I call it assembling the characters. Okay, here we go. Now we have to bring them all back on stage again.
But the difference with Bond is Casino Royale was the first time you'd got anything close to his origin, and his movies dealt with his origins and his background and his family, etc. Blah blah blah. So it's now that he's dead, whoever comes back is the new Bond. It's okay.
It's a new Bond. It's a new
origin.
Sorry. Yeah,
and it doesn't have to be. See, the thing is, it doesn't have to be the same origin that Daniel Craig's had.
And I was listening to some reviewers that say, "Oh, Bond can't be dead." It's this Bond. It's this story, and it ended beautifully. What is the problem?
Just to be fair, you do have the issue of speaking of trademarks and continuity. I mean, you can't have Jenny Bond. You can't have Jamie Bond. You know
why? We have a new James Bond. It doesn't really matter. Bring Idris Elba in. Have a black Bond. Who cares? Bring a new Bond in.
In fact,
ladies and gentlemen, Harry Bond.
No, but here's actually
Bond.
No, you're going You're going the wrong direction. And I thought
you don't think that's important to the franchise?
No, I thought what they were going to do. I thought what they were going to set up with this film was because it's been considering that it's such a precious and valuable franchise, I'm surprising that they hadn't done something like, hey, let's do a non-007 movie, or maybe where he's in it for a little bit, but it's not about him.
Yeah.
You've got all the
along
other
the major lines of the other agents.
So
how many 007s are there?
Well, they could also do a spin-off movie with Ana de Mas. She was fantastic in that movie. Ana de Mas was fantastic in that movie. She was the actress.
So was the girl who took up the 007 mantle.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. There's the trip for you. How many 007s are there?
So there's nothing.
No, there's only one. There's only one.
No. They deal with it. I don't think it's in.
No, there's double O's. There's double O's.
It's
a
number.
Only one 007.
I got you.
Exactly. And it's
double O status, and you're the 7.
It's in its own.
There was one of the movies where he gets invited into a meeting, and it's basically this big hall, and there's a whole ring and they're all 00 agents. And
exactly, that means to kill. Exactly, and it's set in its own universe. It starts a new universe. It doesn't matter. It's the same as the Spider-Man.
And in the corner, there's a portrait of Patrick McGowan. Just kidding.
Okay. Naturally, the Bond movie gets a 5 from me here. That's my favorite action movie this year.
Did you see it, Greg?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
wow!
Well, so you can't rate it.
We spoiled the end for you.
I was actually on my way to the theaters, and we got withheld You have to have certificate. The COVID stopped me from going.
Yeah.
Damn.
So Al, what do you think?
I was very excited to see it.
It's a 4 for me. Again, I'm an old schooler. It's a great movie. It's a fun movie. I don't like to give perfect scores too often, but it's definitely something that's gonna hook you in and it's gonna keep you thoroughly entertained. It's a Bond movie. I mean, why wouldn't it keep you entertained?
Well, Spectre didn't.
End of the day. Well, shit.
Speaking of which, you're talking about the innovation of a character. So when Daniel Craig first comes in and they're sort of setting the whole thing up, you have the excitement and the innovation of creating that whole thing over again. Then it becomes a question of what do you do with the characters you move forward. So, everyone was super excited about the first Wonder Woman movie. Oh my God, they really did this and how exciting and interesting. And then in the second movie, I can't remember, Patty Jenkins, right? You're looking at it going, did she decide to play it safe? Did she run out of ideas?
No. The first movie was massively co-written by Alan Heinberg, who is a fantastic writer. And I dare not watch the new Hawkeye show because I love Kate Bishop, but not the mid-fraction version. I love the Alan Heinberg version.
Yeah.
Alan Heinberg is a fantastic writer, and he made that first movie. I mean, Patty Jenkins had a great direction, great cast. She made it work, but it was Alan Heinberg's script. And for the second movie, she decided to go with Jeff Jones. And
Jeff Johns.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. So, folks, man, you heard us rant. We're hitting a 3-hour mark. I don't want to keep you guys so much longer because I know there's leftovers to eat and there's a whole bunch of stuff to drink. But with that, this is the ICC. We're gonna come back to you hardcore in 2022 with our newest member, Dr. G, right here with Dave, with Chris. Me, I'm gonna show up once in a while in 2022. Other times, I'm gonna be relegated.
You gotta still be around, Al.
Yeah, I'm gonna be relegated to a voice in the background. I'm gonna keep these 3 men on screen because you don't want to see my ugly mug. I gotta throw in some jokes. Do you want to see my mug?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Of course we do.
Yes, we do, Al. Not even a question.
So we got to
important programming note. Not all of these episodes will be 3 hours. We will do shorter ones. We started that 20-minute ones to a specific topic, so we will intersperse longer and shorter episodes.
Definitely. I thought we were going to get a time clock here. So
no, we will. No, but today is introduction to Dr. G, and just to get you guys to know how awesome and intelligent he is when it comes to this comic book stuff, just like my man Elliot and Buse. Like, these dudes know their shit. Like, if you guys want to get acclimated to history, I don't think there's any other show out here that's going to be better than this, going forward in regards to comic book knowledge and history and fandom, with real opinions, not no paid for shit. Like, this is real talk. There's 4 individuals, sharing their passion and their love for comic books, but we're going to be genuine. If we don't like it, we don't like it. If we love it, we love it. And it is what it is. And if you don't like how we talk, then you know what, though? Feel free to change the station because we're going to be.
You're not paying for it anyway, so feel free to go.
Feel free to go. But if you enjoy what we're saying, because I know Joshua today has been enjoying our conversation, as has Marshall and a few others that have been tuning in. Some of them have been very quiet.
I super enjoyed it. I thank you all.
Good.
Super fun.
You're great, bro. Thank you for hanging out with us today. I hope that you're feeling the energy of the International Comic Crusaders and know that we're here about celebrating the fandom.
I just got a text from my bandmate. Are you done? We're gonna play today. I gotta go.
I have a book to write. Come on, guys.
I've got a book to draw.
So. There you go. So you got an artist, you got a musician, you got a writer, and me. I'm only about to light another blunt and enjoy Dexter with my wife right now.
Almega, you are priceless, my friend.
Yeah, I'll be honest, bro. So with that, folks, I'll give you a double cheers today.
Follow me on Twitter. Buy my book. My book. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram.
Neon Graveyard by Chris Buse, available on Amazon. Yeah, check out the Atomic Express and anything else that they've got going. And look up Dr. G everywhere. You're gonna want to buy everything he's ever touched. Trust me. And then we're gonna get into more conversation. Yeah, Dr. G, you got really? Yes, we want what you had. And I please don't tell me your address because I don't want to know where you have those beautiful books at.
I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you where those beautiful books are. But if you're interested, give me a shout out because I got stuff going. I don't know, Dave. Did you have this problem? We were on everybody's comp list, so everybody sent us everything. But I got into deep collecting there for a while just because I wasn't in the industry anymore and I missed it. So yeah, I have 17,000 comic books. I'm starting to get rid of them. Get rid of them. Done. Give me a call.
So, folks, I'm calling it here on air. Greg, I need whatever Conans we need to talk. Nobody better touch them motherfucking Conans, and if I find out,
yes, there will be hell to pay. Okay, bye.
yes. All right, and with
Okay.
that, I'm Al Mega. Thank you for tuning in.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Comic
Thanks,
Crusaders,
Dave.
Dave
Thank you,
Elliott,
Chris.
Buse,
Thank you.
Dr. G. This has been great, guys. Thank you again. Tune in 2 weeks. We're gonna hang out again and talk a whole bunch of mess of comic books. And with that, we out. Love you guys.
Bye bye. Take care.
Bye.
Peace
Auf
out.
Wiedersehen.